Host room. Studio web interface.
Come all you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
The largest union talk radio program in the South. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison. My co-host is Adam Keller. Folks, we've got the phones open already. You can leave us a call. You can give us a call at 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. You can leave us a voicemail at any time through the same number, and you can leave us a written note at tvlr.fm/contact. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking to a letter carrier here in just a moment. We're going to be talking to a carpenter shortly after that. And then we are going to be talking to an auto worker about how they have just ratified the first union contract at a foreign-owned automotive manufacturer in the South. Really exciting stuff. And then we got a whole second half of the program for you. We're going to be talking about the economy. We're going to be talking about the BLS union numbers. We're going to be talking about union democracy, and we've got a Jesse Jackson clip for you. Lots of really cool stuff. We're going to start off with the letter carriers. The National Association of Letter Carriers, they are one of the four major unions at the Postal Service. For those of you who don't know, there are four unions at the Postal Service. There are the National Association of Letter Carriers. They represent city carriers. There's the National Rural Letter Carriers Association, and you can surmise who they represent. There's the American Postal Workers, who represent the store clerks, and there are the National Postal Mail Handlers Union, who I'm not exactly sure what they do, but they represent something like 60,000 people at the Postal Service. The National Association of Letter Carriers, you might know if you're a longtime listener of the program, just recently finished negotiating their 2023 contract. So that has now been negotiated and finalized. The membership voted down the contract, actually, and then the union and the Postal Service went to arbitration, and the arbitrated contract that was imposed on the workers and the Postal Service ultimately looked pretty similar to the contract that was voted down. And so there are still lots of concerns that letter carriers have with the contract that remains. For one, there's still tiers. The letter carriers union talked about in a statement last week how the majority of letter carriers who start as non-career, which is basically all letter carriers who start as, basically all letter carriers have to start as a non-career carrier. The majority of people who do that leave within their first year. There's a huge staffing problem at the Postal Service. They're underpaid. They don't get paid enough. And it takes them forever to get their full benefits in. And so these are things that the union and the letter carriers, the rank and file, are interested in seeing resolved in the next contract, which is going to be negotiated now. The 2023 contract that was just finalized, 6 or 9 months ago, expires in May of 2026. I think it's May 22nd. Maybe it's May 20, something like that. In May of 2026, the letter carrier's contract with the Postal Service expires. And so the union and the Postal Service are going to begin contract negotiations next week. So to kick off contract negotiations, the letter carriers union is having rallies nationwide. I think there are like a couple of hundred of these events all over the country where letter carriers are going to be rallying, calling for a fair contract, talking about what they would like to see in a newly negotiated contract. And here to talk to us now is one of those letter carriers from Huntsville, Alabama, Cordell from the NALC branch 462. Brother, welcome to the program. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Oh, good morning, Jacob. Hey, I'm glad you're having me, man. Glad for having me. I tell you, good to be here.
It's good to have you, Cordell, also a delegate to the Labor Council, and so we've known each other for some time, and I appreciate you taking the time to call in this morning. Your local is having a rally tomorrow downtown Huntsville in front of the Clinton Avenue Post Office. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, it'll be tomorrow at 1 p.m., like I say, in front of the downtown station at 615 Clinton Avenue.
And
yes,
members of the public...
So pretty much...
Yeah, go ahead.
I apologize, brother. Go ahead.
Members of the public are invited to come, right?
Yes, this is a public event. As many people as you know come out and show your support and care for the letter carriers. We service all communities, all streets, every house. We service you all. So yes, it will be an honor and a privilege and a pleasure for the public to come out and show their support for the letter carriers.
Cordell, what are some of the things that letter carriers in Huntsville, in particular, are interested in? What are the things that are going to bring out letter carriers to this rally that they'd like to see in a new contract?
Well, Jacob, I hate to sound like this, but, at the end of the day, it comes down to the bottom line. We want higher pay and higher salary. Everybody's well of how the economy is, how inflation is gone up, but wages are still the same. So just, to have a comparable cost of living, we do get COLAs, but they're diet COLAs. Let me say that.
Right.
And it does not compare with the rate of inflation, especially if you new starting out, trying to get established as a public citizen and do your part and serve the community. It's very tough on you with the salary and the cost of living. That is the main thing, higher pay. And one of the, shorter time to reach the pay scale. And one of the main things though that we really want is an all career workforce. Those are the main things right there.
And just for context for folks, over the last we've been on the air now for almost 6 years, and so we've been covering these fights that unions have been having with employers throughout the period of high inflation. And I don't know if it's the majority of unions, it sure seems like it, but a lot of unions have been able to secure at least one contract with huge wage increases to make up for the massive amounts of inflation that we saw in 2021, 2022, and 2023. A 10% raise in 1 year, 15 or 20% raises in 1 year, 30%, 40%, 50% raises over the life of the contract. And the letter carriers have never seen such a bit. You can look at their 2023 contract, which was just negotiated and is soon to expire, and the 2020 contract, and all of y'all's raises, I believe this is right, Cordell, have been on the order of like 2% every year, all through this whole period of high inflation. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. It's been right there, 1.3 and 2%. Yeah, very, like I say, diet cola. Yeah.
And so trying to get up, I mean, just to where you were in 2019 would take a really, really big pay increase. And so, what is the union hoping to get out of this nationwide day of action?
Well, hopefully it would at least get the attention of the American public to know what's really going on, the issues that letter carriers really face, because if you really don't know somebody that works with the post office, you really are misinformed on what we go through and what we deal with. One of the things, man, we are so short-staffed right now, it's unrealistic. And so the job is very demanding. So you're spending a lot of time away from your loved ones, and you're working harder to get what you used to have. Like you say, since 2019, 2021, you have to work. I had got off the overtime list actually in before the inflation, but hey, I had to get back on just to make ends meet. And so working a lot of longer hours, and then we are short staffed, so that puts a strain on us as well. So we definitely are looking for better staffing, higher pay, and then with the non-career workforce that's coming in, they're having to be non-career too long, and they're getting burnt out before they even become career,
right.
And so that's a problem as well. Those are so what I'm hoping for, that the rally at least lets the public know how hard the letter carriers work for the company, work for the citizens, work for the city, work for their neighbors, and just the amount of stress that we're under. And so we just want fair day's pay for a fair day's work. That's really what it boils down to.
Brother Cordell, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate your time.
God bless you. Y'all have a blessed one now.
Yes, sir. You too. So y'all come on out tomorrow, 1 p.m., Sunday, February 22nd, at the Clinton Avenue, downtown Huntsville Post Office. You'll see Cordell. You'll see me. You'll see a bunch of other folks rallying for the letter carriers here in Huntsville to get what they deserve, a fair contract. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us in the chat online on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. Really appreciate that. And
Jacob,
Osen,
I was going to add, if you're not local to Huntsville, go to NALC.org. They have a map with the Fight Like Hell rallies, these fair contract rallies that are happening, like you said, nationwide. So I know in Alabama there's another one down in Mobile, so those of you closer to the coast. But these are happening all over the country. I know we have listeners online all over the place. So chances are there is a rally happening tomorrow close to you, and it would be great if you, your labor council, anyone you know can just swing by, show some love and solidarity and support.
Speaking of solidarity and support, we got a super chat from Osiniad 345. Appreciate that, and they said we genuinely care about our people as letter carriers. As a CCA, I will be working Amazon Sunday, but solidarity to those going. I mean, that's crazy that we got letter carriers working 7 days a week. I mean, it's nuts. Union Gus in the chat says, Would love folks' recommendation around resources regarding bargaining on layoffs. The county announced a budget that is cutting a quarter of our funding. Solidarity, Gus. So sorry to hear that. And if anybody has any recommendations for resources on bargaining layoffs, drop them in the YouTube chat for our buddy Gus from the Pacific Northwest. TWY says, morning, who could imagine the Supreme Court would rule your big, beautiful president's big, beautiful tariffs as illegal? Yeah, indeed. We're going to be talking about that later on in the program. Lots to discuss. We've got our next guest online, so we'll go ahead and talk about that. Last year, 120 workers at Canfor Southern Pine in DeRidder, Louisiana, filed a petition for a union election with the Central South Carpenters Regional Council, Local 3101. Subsequent to that, the company hired the union-busting consultants at East Coast Labor Relations. That name may sound familiar to listeners of the show because it is the name of the business that Joe Brock owns. Joe Brock is the supposedly liberal union buster who we had a conversation with on this program earlier last year. In an effort to bring more awareness to the union busting industry and the tactics that they employ, this year, in partnership with Labor Lab, we'll be interviewing workers at workplaces where the employers have hired union busters. This week, we start this series by talking to Randall Sanders, a worker at Canfor Southern Pine who was fired by his employer for organizing. He now works for the Carpenters Union and is continuing to work to organize his former job. He joins us now. Randall Sanders, welcome to the Valley Labor Report.
Good morning, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. Before we talk about the union busting that happened at Canfor, could you talk a little bit about why you and your coworkers decided to organize in the first place?
A lot of empty promises. We were all told we would have a certain line of progression. Certain things were promised, and the promises just never came to fruition. And as time went on, we started that place up. We did a really good job of it, all of us together. I'm really proud of the work we did there. And as time went on, and basically Canfor had a model to run this facility, they decided they didn't need as many of us as they did to begin with. And they slowly but surely just started letting everyone go. And we saw the bigger picture, so we all decided to organize, and we all decided to try and take this to the next level, so we weren't done that way anymore.
And so why did the layoffs start coming again? I mean, was there like automation in the plant, or was there less? What was going on that precipitated the layoffs?
Certain people in management didn't like certain employees. We were outspoken, and we tried to hold them to the standard that they had made for themselves when they hired us.
Right. And so once the campaign went public, you know now at least that your employer hired a union busting consultant for $4,000 a day. How long was it? Like, what were some of the first signs that you noticed that they had hired these guys?
Well, they terminated me before they brought the union buster in. I was placed on a final warning 5 days after I had the first meeting with Canfor employees and the UBC, Central South Carpenters. We're now Southern RCC. So they terminated me before then, but I've dealt with many of our employees at Canfor that have gone through these union busting, I guess you would call them seminars, meetings. And so I asked them, what was going on, and it's all the worst case scenarios. And the simple way to prevent them from misinforming everyone is just to educate yourself. That's the first thing I would advise anyone before they attempted to organize any facility, is everyone, the employee base, needs to educate themselves. They need to educate themselves, and they will know exactly what's coming from that point further.
Absolutely. And had you and your coworkers heard about union busters and these anti-union consultants before?
No, we hadn't. So
it came as a pretty big surprise. how soon was it that you and your coworkers realized how much they were being paid?
Those numbers came out. I'm not sure. I think I really have to get back to you on that. The number came from a few employees there, and then another source. I was not there personally.
Right. Yeah, well, one of the sources that we know that they were being paid $4,000 a day is that these union busters are required to file with the Department of Labor, and so they have to disclose how much they're getting paid, and so that's at least how we know how much they're being paid. What were some of the what have been the reactions to that number among workers at Canfor? I mean, are they, are they surprised at how much money these people are getting paid, or what's their reaction been?
Oh, absolutely. And you can just imagine the reaction when the company has absolutely no money to give an employee a raise, which they had promised when they were hired on, but now all of a sudden they have $4,000 a day for a union buster. You can just imagine what that reaction was like. Yeah, pretty heated.
You mentioned that the union busters have done some of these, captive audience meetings. What are some of the things that they've told workers in these meetings?
Oh, just all the worst case scenarios. That it would be about 7 years before any of this would get resolved. So we had some folks inside. We told them, ask this man, well, could you give us, instead of the worst case scenario, could you give us the average scenario? But he had to go back to another meeting that he wasn't even scheduled to be in on his day off, just to be in that meeting to get that information to the rest of the workers. So then he asked, well, who's paying you to be here? Because they said they're completely non-biased. They're just there for the workers. And they said, well, Canfor is. So he gave him basically like a Bob and Tom scenario. He said, well, if Bob comes to me and says that he will pay me to tell the truth, who he likes more, me or Tom? Who am I going to speak the best for?
Right.
Who's paying me? So these captive audience meetings, they actually started before the union busters got there. But that's when we had started this campaign, and we were becoming more informed of our rights. So they changed the captive audience setting, because before, when the first captive audience meetings came about, what they said was they shut the plant down, everybody report to the break room, everybody report to the training center, these two places, and everyone had to go. And all they had was information from another labor union, and all they wanted to do was just talk about how bad this labor union was. So those were captive audience. After we were informed of our rights, what they did was everyone come in on the clock. They say, okay, you don't have to be in here, but we have snacks, we have drinks, and the AC's on. If you don't want to participate in this meeting, you can go clean the facility. Yeah.
Wow.
Who is going to choose to go out in this southern heat? We're in the deep South, if you can't tell by my accent, the deep South. Who's going to go in the southern heat and clean when they can sit in the AC, eat and drink?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, you mentioned that, and I think that they probably switched that up because at least currently the NLRB says that captive audience meetings, ones that you are required to go to, are illegal under the National Labor Relations Act. And so making it at least, facially non-mandatory is kind of how they're skirting around some of those regulations. Was there anything else that the union busters or the company did during this campaign that you feel has been unlawful?
Oh yes. So we filed a petition, and when I say we, I'm now council organizing rep for the Southern RCC. But at this point, I was still a lead in operations at the facility. So an email was sent on Monday that we were petitioning for a vote. By 4 o'clock that evening, they had sat on a computer, rewound cameras, and went back 72 hours and found me standing in a walkway, literally in a walkway, performing a procedure that everyone there has done 1,000 times, and they terminated me. Yeah, that's pretty unlawful in my eyes.
Right.
They have targeted so many union supporters. I've literally got salary individuals telling me that they have proof on their phone of other salary individuals trying to monitor these meetings that we had off the premises, asking who was there, and if this person was there or this person was there, they're going to get fired. They've painted targets on everyone's back. Now that we've gone to the National Relations Labor Board, that has calmed down. That has calmed down drastically, but they are still every day coming up with a new tactic just to target everyone that's wanting to organize and have their own voice.
Right. What would you say were some of the consultants and your employers' most effective talking points for flipping a pro-union person to being against the unionization campaign, and how would you respond to those talking points now?
The main thing that I've seen, and you have to understand that I'm new at this, but what they're going to say are benefits. What they do is they go to the employee and they say, this is what you could lose. This is what we could take away from you if you decide to organize and speak for yourself. And what I've learned is the benefits only get better when you go union. So you have to educate these people. It's the difference in going to Walmart and Sam's. The more people you have, the cheaper the product is. You go to Sam's, you buy in bulk, you get it cheaper. We have 550,000 members on this North American continent. No one can get benefits as cheap as we can. But the employer is on the other side saying, no, we don't have to agree to this. We're going to take your bonus. We're going to take this. We're going to take that, all the way down to hard hats and safety gloves, which aren't benefits. Those are something you have to work. Right. So the main thing they're going to threaten everyone with is what you could lose, what you're going to lose. And do you even trust this union that you don't even know? Because they're going to try to tell the employee, you don't know what they're going to say at the bargaining table. And that is a lie. That is false, because the union forms, the employees form their own government, and they have president, vice president, stewards, trustees, wardens. They are present at this bargaining. They speak for themselves. They sit at the table. They know what the company says. They know what we say.
Right.
The main thing you could do to anyone that is trying to organize a facility is, first, they need to educate themselves so they know how the company is going to come at them, and they know what's true and what's not.
Well, I mean, I think that's, I was going to ask you what your advice would be for workers in a union campaign, to effectively combat some of these anti-union talking points, but I think that you did it. Is there anything else that you would want to say as far as, for the workers who are still at Canfor and still trying to organize with the Carpenters, or anybody else who is being subjected to these, anti-union consultants and some of these anti-union talking points during a campaign?
Stay strong. Don't let anyone convince you that what you believe is the truth is not the truth. And the good Lord is always on the side of the oppressed. It's going to be okay. We're going to get this done, and we're going to take care of everyone.
Brother Sanders, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we let you go?
No, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time. We've been talking to Randall Sanders, a staff organizer for the Southern Regional Council of Carpenters. He was he worked previously at Canfor Southern Pine in DeRidder, Louisiana, before he was fired for supporting the union effort when last year 120 workers there filed a petition to have a union election. Appreciate Labor Lab for partnering with us on this segment and look forward to many more. I think that we've got one already lined up next week where we will be talking to a North Carolina social worker about their union campaign and what the anti-union consultants did there. So really excited about this being a recurring segment on the program. And again, thank you to Brother Sanders for taking the time.
And I hope Mr. Brock feels real good about himself.
Yeah, it's funny. Mr. Brock, on our program, said that the good unions, the good ones, are the building trades and public sector unions. Those are places where he reckons, if you got a building trade union and you got a public sector union, you should vote yes in a union campaign. That's what he said on our radio program. And now his company is attacking a building trade union campaign. I mean, it's very funny what happens when you're getting paid to have a position on
$4,000 a day, I guess, does sway your mindset.
I have never gotten paid. I mean, look, who knows what would happen if we got paid $4,000 a day? I don't think we would do that. But it's a pretty penny.
That is a pretty penny. It's sad, though. It's real sad. I like to sleep at night. Yeah. Might be broke, but I'm sleeping at night.
That's right.
Knowing I didn't harm workers.
Yeah. Free American says the union busters usually like to stress dues and strikes. Yeah, that's another one.
Again, they never explain the democracy aspect of that or how that process actually works. They just try to use fear. And dues are, absolutely one they harp on as if people can't do the math for themselves. It's sad.
We're going to be talking to the Volkswagen worker here in like 15 minutes or so, and their dues are going to be something like 1% of their wages, and they got a 20% raise by organizing. So I think that's the that's the math that you got to do. Is 20 bigger than 1? I think most people say yes. I have a math degree, so I'm fairly qualified to give you an answer on that. 20 is, generally speaking, larger than 1. You're listening to the Valley Labor Report, the largest union talk radio program in the South. We're going to take a break here in just a moment, and we will be back with a worker from Volkswagen, the co-chair of the bargaining committee, actually. Really excited for that conversation. And then we'll have Last Week in Southern Labor. We're going to talk to you about Boss Watch, and then we got a whole second half of the program. Really good stuff coming up on the show today, so stay tuned. 844-899-TVLR if you want to call in, 844-899-8857. We're going to take a break. We will be right back.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time. The attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtnj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services provided is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms.
Support for the Valley Labor Report comes from the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers Union. Learn more by visiting www.ifpte.org.
Are you looking for a better future, a career that can have you set for life, and to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself? If you are, then consider a skilled trades apprenticeship with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. The work of IUPAT is all around us, from the industrial painters who work on the bridges to drywall finishers, floor coverers, the glazers who install the glass in our skylines, and so much more. With an IUPAT apprenticeship, you earn while you learn and receive benefits while learning the trade, including a pension. We provide world-class education free of charge. That's right, no student debt. Our starting salaries for apprentices that graduate is above the national median salary with benefits for entire families. And you have the flexibility to take your trade wherever you'd like in the country to work. IUPAT District Council 77 covers our entire region, so give Adam Booth a call at 205-603-3142 for more information. Again, that phone number is 205-603-3142. Come build a better future with us today and join IUPACT.
We're the nurses, firefighters, and claims representatives that help keep our government services running. We respond to natural disasters. We care for our nation's veterans, and we investigate discrimination in the workplace. We are federal and D.C. government workers, and we are proud to serve the American people. Working in more than 70 agencies across the government, we know we can fulfill our mission because our union has our back. Learn more at afge.org. Paid for by the American Federation of Government Employees, AFL-CIO.
Since 1889, the National Association of Letter Carriers has protected the rights of city carriers as they deliver the mail and offer support for their community. The Alabama State Association of Letter Carriers makes their legislative voices heard when it comes to issues involving the U.S. Postal Service and the working members of the union. The National Association of Letter Carriers has been longtime supporters of the Muscular Dystrophy Association and the Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. This message is sponsored by the Alabama Association of Letter Carriers. To learn more, visit NALC.org. Unite Here is also a supporter of the Valley Labor Report. They are a labor union that represents 300,000 working people across Canada and the United States. Their members work in the hotel, gaming, food service, manufacturing, textile, distribution, laundry, transportation, and airport industries. You can learn more about Unite Here at unitehere.org.
Come all you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
A battle in the heart of Alabama caught our attention. Coal miners in one community, they've been on strike now for months.
Working as long as 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, in some of the most dangerous conditions.
I really think that the labor movement is the single greatest force for democracy in the history of the United States.
The story of Alabama is a story of not just resilience, but of militancy.
I say no contract, you say no code. No contract, no contract.
If we ain't all free, ain't none of us free.
You're listening to Alabama's only union talk radio show, The Valley Labor Report, with Adam Keller and Jacob Morrison.
That's right, folks. From the mountains of Tennessee to the bayous of Louisiana, broadcasting online and on the radio from the heart of the Tennessee Valley, the Spice Radio Studios in Huntsville, Alabama. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison. My co-host is Adam Keller. Today on the program, we just talked to a letter carrier about the nationwide day of action to kick off bargaining between the Letter Carriers Union and the Postal Service. Tomorrow, you can find an event near you on NALC.org. We also talked to a worker from Canfor Southern Pine in Louisiana about the union busting going on at that campaign. We will soon be talking to an auto worker in Tennessee about how Volkswagen workers just ratified the first union contract at a foreign-owned automotive manufacturer in the South. Folks, we got a big show today. And we're going to have more than that on today's show. If you'd like to call in, you can do that. The phone number is 844-899-8857. That's 844-899-TVLR. Or you can send us a note at tvlr.fm/contact. You can also leave us a voicemail at any time throughout the week if you don't catch us when we're live. If you haven't gotten enough of us by the time that we wrap up here on the radio, or if you just want to see what we're up to throughout the week, you can find us anywhere you find anything online, in particular at our website, tvlr.fm, but we are also on YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts, all at the Valley Labor Report. Just a reminder, your support helps us stay on the air. Our largest single source of funding comes directly from our listeners, so if you want to become a sustaining donor to the program or make a one-time donation, you can go to tvlr.fm/donate or patreon.com/the Valley Labor Report. We got a bunch of cool merch for sale at tvlr.fm/store. And finally, if you're a member of a union, then you should get your local, your region, your district council, or your international to sponsor the show. You can reach out to us for more details on that.
Hey, good morning, y'all. Let me add a disclaimer that any viewpoints or opinions expressed in this program belong solely to their author and do not necessarily represent any organization or sponsor. We want to welcome all of our listeners, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, WVNN, WZZA, WHIV, WGOW, WMSP, Means TV, or through your favorite podcast app. And we are proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network and encourage our listeners to check that out at laborradionetwork.org. As most of you know, we are not media professionals, just a few diehard unionists who want to amplify the voices of the working class here in the American South. We're hoping this project can make a difference on that front, and we can't do it without you. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Whether you're a loyal fan or a first-time listener, we appreciate you spending some time with us today.
And appreciate everybody hanging out with us on YouTube and participating in the chat. We had some conversation in the chat about how the employer cares so much about whether or not you pay dues to a union, but they don't really care about how much you pay your church or your social organizations. And noted how, a lot of these will even, a lot of employers will even allow you to deduct charitable contributions straight from your paycheck, even as they support legislation to bar workers from deducting union dues from their paycheck. Many public sector workers no longer have that ability to opt in. We're not even talking about having a union contract that says everybody that's represented by the union has to pay dues. We're talking about people working in a workplace being represented by a union and telling the employer, saying, please send part of my paycheck instead of to me to the union for my dues. That has been made illegal for public sector workers across the country. Basically all federal workers now and many state and municipal workers. It's insane. But those same employers will allow you to make paycheck deductions to the United Way or some other charitable organization, which that's not a problem, right? I mean, I'm totally fine with you doing that, but if they're willing to let you do that, you should be able to pay your dues. It's pretty crazy. Let's get to last week in Southern Labor. We got a bunch of news for you. Across the South, from February 13th to the 20th, 202 workers in 8 bargaining units have gone public with their union campaigns. 73 workers in 1 bargaining unit are trying to decertify their union. 30 workers across 2 bargaining units unionized, and 182 workers in 1 bargaining unit withdrew their petition for a union election. Here are the details. In new union campaigns, 15 workers at TDS Telecom in Mooresville, North Carolina, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Communication Workers of America, CWA. 42 workers at AZZ Precoat Metals in Washington, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, IAMAW District 9. 28 workers at Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits in Lakeland, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 79. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers Union, SMART, Local 2, as the union representing 73 workers at Silgan Containers Manufacturing in St. Joseph, Missouri. 15 workers at Cardinal Health Pharmacy Services, LLC, in Springfield, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 245, and 35 workers at Grayson Collin Electric Cooperative in Van Alstyne, Texas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, Local 220. In election results, 182 workers at Ace Hardware Corporation in Plant City, Florida, withdrew their petition for a union election with the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, Local 1625. 18 workers at Starbucks Corporation in Reston, Virginia, voted 11-5 in favor of unionization with Starbucks Workers United, and 12 workers at Starbucks in Blitheville, Arkansas, voted 7-5 in favor of unionization with Starbucks Workers United. In grievances, unfair labor practices, and court cases, the Supreme Court just handed President Trump a massive defeat on his signature trade policy, but the battle over tariffs is far from over. On Friday, the court ruled 6-3 that Trump exceeded his authority, using a 1970s emergency statute to unilaterally impose sweeping tariffs on nearly all U.S. trading partners. Chief Justice John Roberts, joined by 2 conservative Trump appointees and the 3 liberal justices, stated that the president must have clear congressional authorization to levy such massive taxes. The ruling throws the U.S. economy into uncertainty as the government may now be forced to refund up to $120 billion to importers. The Machinists Union, IAM, praised the decision, arguing that while targeted tariffs are useful against bad actors, Trump's arbitrary, sweeping taxes caused economic chaos and burdened everyday consumers. However, a defiant Trump immediately announced plans to resurrect the tariffs using different legal avenues, ordering a new 10% tax on imports under the 1974 Trade Act. While the court struck down his use of emergency powers, Trump made it clear he intends to keep tariffs as the central weapon of his global trade war. In strikes and bargaining updates, Southern nurses are proving that healthcare workers can take on massive hospital systems and win big. Down in Texas, over 700 registered nurses at St. Joseph Health in the Brazos Valley just held a rally on February 19th. Fresh off of a huge union election in December, these nurses are gearing up to bargain their first contract with a laser focus on securing safe staffing ratios and improving workplace safety. Meanwhile, their union siblings in Kentucky and West Virginia are showing them exactly what's possible when nurses stand together. Over 700 nurses at 9 Appalachian regional healthcare facilities in the 2 states just overwhelmingly ratified a new 3-year contract. They secured average 10% wage increase, secured 12 hours of holiday pay for night shifts, won new penalty-free wellness days to combat burnout, and successfully fought off all concessions. From the Brazos Valley to the Appalachian Mountains, nurses represented by National Nurses United are organizing to ensure that both healthcare workers and patients get the respect and care they deserve. Meanwhile, in Alabama, the state has one of the highest nursing shortages in the country and one of the lowest average nursing salaries. Not unrelatedly, there are virtually no nurses unions in Alabama. Workers helping refugees survive global conflicts just won a major fight of their own. Nearly 700 employees at 13 International Rescue Committee offices nationwide just ratified their first ever contract with OPEIU. These workers provide critical services like case management and legal aid to immigrants and people fleeing war zones, yet many previously struggled with heavy workloads and insecure limited-term employment. The new contract changes the game. It secures immediate wage increases, just cause protections, and crucially, permanent employment status for those temporary workers. It also establishes stronger safety standards and gives workers a real voice in their grueling day-to-day operations. Starting with a single office in Dallas, Texas in 2023, this organizing wave means that nearly half of all U.S.-based IRC employees are now unionized, proving that nonprofit workers don't have to sacrifice their own livelihoods to do good in the world. In political and legislative updates, the government just proposed a rule that unions warned could drag meatpacking plants back to the horrific days of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. The USDA, under the Trump administration, has proposed lifting line speeds in pork and poultry processing plants. Major labor unions, particularly the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, and the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, RWDSU, are condemning the move, warning that forcing workers to keep pace with accelerating machinery prioritizes corporate profits over human lives. In these plants, workers already perform highly repetitive knife cuts at blinding speeds up to 140 birds per minute in poultry plants. Unions point out that increasing these speeds directly leads to more amputations, severe lacerations, and debilitating repetitive motion injuries. In fact, the USDA's own studies from just just last year confirmed that faster line speeds increase these exact risks. Beyond worker safety, unions warned that uncapping speeds compromises the safety of the food supply itself. Labor leaders are urging workers and consumers alike to fight back against this deregulation during the upcoming comment period. Wall Street wants to create a massive coast-to-coast rail monopoly, but a bipartisan coalition is stepping up to pump the brakes. Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern are trying to merge into a corporate giant that would control over 40% of all U.S. rail freight. Now, 46 members of Congress and 10 agricultural leaders from 10 states are demanding that the Surface Transportation Board heavily scrutinize or block the deal. They warn that this historic consolidation will kill competition, spike shipping prices, and cause supply chain meltdowns that hurt everyone from domestic manufacturers to family farmers and everyday consumers. Under the new STB rules from the early 2000s, these rail giants must prove that their merger will actually enhance competition, which is a tough hurdle. The STB already rejected their first application, but the railroads plan to try again in March. In internal union affairs, the labor movement just lost one of its most towering champions, a man who famously proved that civil rights and workers' rights are completely inseparable. This week, unions across the country are mourning the passing of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Whether he was rallying with the UAW during the recent stand-up strike, walking arm in arm with striking machinists mechanics at Eastern Airlines, or fighting alongside the SEIU for the dignity of everyday care workers, Reverend Jackson was a lifelong fixture on the picket line. Labor leaders across the movement are celebrating his legacy of building powerful, multiracial working-class coalitions, particularly through his Rainbow Push Coalition and his historic presidential campaigns. The overarching message from organized labor is clear. Jackson didn't just preach about economic justice, he showed up for it. He demanded that the workers get a fair share, not charity, and he recognized that true freedom requires economic opportunity for all. His iconic rallying cry of "I am somebody" will continue to echo across bargaining tables and picket lines for generations to come. If we missed something, let us know at tvlr.fm/contact and subscribe to the newsletter at tvlr.fm to get the exhaustive version of Last Week in Southern Labor right in your inbox every single week. I believe that we have got our guest on the line. Really excited for this conversation. We're going to be talking about the Volkswagen contract that was just ratified by UAW members in Chattanooga, Tennessee last week. The contract provides for a 20% wage increase over the next few years over the term of the contract, a reduction in healthcare costs, and more. We've got a clip from when they began voting that's really cool. Let's play clip 1 for you.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. I felt really privileged and honored to be the very first person to vote today after all these years of the struggle.
UAW.
That was from the first. That was when they began voting, and we also have a clip of them announcing the vote result. That is very, very emotional and exciting to watch. Let's play clip 2.
We had 75% show up for the vote today and yesterday. And out of that, 96% says yes.
For people that are just listening to us on audio, I think that the emotion still comes through just in the audio, but you really should find the UAW on Facebook or Twitter to watch the videos. It's incredible to see. Here to talk to us about it is Steve Cochran, a worker at Volkswagen in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the UAW Volkswagen Bargaining Committee co-chair. Steve, welcome to the program.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me today. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. It's just an exciting time for the workers at Chattanooga Volkswagen, and we're ready to get this thing going and start changing people's lives.
Absolutely. Well, brother, it is an honor to have you on the program. I want to dig into the contract a little bit, but before we do that, could you talk to us about why you are a supporter of the union and why you decided to devote your time to being on the bargaining committee? And maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what it was like being on the bargaining committee. I know that there was a lot of work that went into that. So give us kind of your spiel about why you support the union and why you've been on the bargaining committee.
Well, the story goes back many, many years. In 2000, I actually went to work at Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company and joined the Steelworkers Union. And being a young man and stuff, I just thought that the company treated you that way because they should. It's the right thing to do, and that's how you should be treated as a human and as a worker. Little did I know that whenever I decided to further my career with the auto manufacturer, that was not the case. You got to take it because they will not give it to you. So shortly after I hired in 2011 at Volkswagen, I decided that it was somebody had to do something. We had to get together. And we had to change some of this actions and change some of the ways people are being treated. It was just a bad situation. So we just started calling around, and we decided to settle with the United Auto Workers, and they come down here, and they taught us so well, and they pushed us real hard, and we had a couple of small margin defeats in 2014, 2019, but 2024 it felt really, really good. You know, people out there need to be treated right, and not everybody wants to be stand up front of everybody and force people to adhere to just common courtesy and just doing right by people. So it takes leadership to do that. Most people just want to come to work, do their job, go home. But whenever you have a management person making their life miserable at work and telling them they're worthless and just putting them down all the time, it gets to the point where people just can't take it anymore. So that's why you have to form a union in order to get the company and their people to stay in line. It's not nothing that's adversarial to the company. It's not about being mad at the company. It's not about being, they're terrible to us. It's not about being greedy. It's just about wanting certain rules the same way every day, treated with dignity and respect, go home to my family, and enjoy my life.
Right. That really speaks to the truth of a very famous union saying that that a bad boss is the best organizer. And I think y'all had a little bit of that at Volkswagen in Chattanooga. But like you said, it's not even to say that it has to be adversarial. I mean, my brother Adam here, he works at a progressive nonprofit here in Alabama, and he and his coworkers organized not because there was a bad boss, but because actually they've got a pretty good relationship with their employer, and they wanted to make sure that they could secure that and maintain it in the event that there comes a change in management, right? And so actually, even though a bad boss is the best organizer, that is going to be the situation where most people are motivated enough to organize. If you are in a situation where you actually do have a really good boss, somebody who really actually does care about your employer, about the employees, that is the best situation to organize in, because if they are genuinely good, they'll be fine with you organizing. They're not going to fight you on it, and contract negotiations might go a little bit easier than they went at Volkswagen. It took a little while, but y'all were able to get it. Can you talk to us a little bit about, logistically, what it was like to be on the bargaining committee and all of the work that went in to representing your coworkers across the table from Volkswagen?
Well, so I have bargained some other contracts in the past where I used to work at Goodyear. So this is a new experience. Those were blackout. So you went off site, you went in the room, you did all your bargaining, you didn't tell anybody what was going on or anything. So we come to this is a totally new aspect. You're transparent with the
Uh-oh. Steve?
Workers, you tell them what's going on. Sometimes they truth. So it's difficult.
Okay, Steve, can just for a second, you cut out for just a moment. We've got you back now. You were talking about, you were beginning to talk to us about how this experience in bargaining was different than when you bargained contracts at Goodyear. Can you pick up there?
Yeah, so at Goodyear, we had blackout contract negotiations. The bargaining team would leave, be in total silence, wouldn't talk to anybody, nothing come back, and then explain to everybody what they got. And then they allow them to vote on it. This here was a transparent way of doing so. You communicate with the workers, you were on site, you were there for them, any questions, what's going on, constant back and forth communication. Granted, most of the time, the truth is not, it's not pretty. It's not, you can't put it up on a billboard and stuff. The truth is just the truth, and it's hard just to sell the truth when it's nothing exciting. So times went on there where nothing exciting was going on, and you just had to tell people the truth. You're working on this, we're working on that, and that makes it difficult. But at the same time, it's the best way to do it because you're being very transparent with your workers and your people what's going on. The biggest struggle was the response time from Volkswagen. They were, in my opinion, slow to react. You know, hey, this, and it took them a while, a week or two. It's always next Wednesday or 2 weeks. We'll get back with you, and that slowed down things a lot. Some people say it was strategy. Some people say it was disrespect. That doesn't even matter anymore. What matters is that we stayed the course. We stayed strong. We stayed together. The workers stayed with us, and we got a heck of a good contract, man. It's really, really exciting. And honestly, there's things in this contract that people don't even realize what it's going to change about them. And I'm excited for them to learn as we do too, going through it.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk to you about it. One more question before we move into some of the details of the contract. Is there anything that you feel like people should know about what it's like to participate in this process? Because as you know, very few workers in the United States have a voice on the job or have any power on the job. And so it's difficult for them to kind of imagine sitting across the bargaining table from their employer as equals and hammering out the conditions under which they're going to work over the next few years. And so is there anything about that experience that you would want to share with people who don't work in union firms?
Well, what I would say more than anything else is that you have to look at it like it's a different situation than it is on a normal day to day inside your workplace. Meaning that, like at Volkswagen and other non-union places, the boss, they're the man. You know, they can tell you what to do, how to do. Your job's always a little bit in jeopardy all the time. When you be going to these rooms and you sit down and you talk to the same people, you got to get it past your head that they can't do that now. You know, they can't retaliate against you. They can't do that stuff. So it's a difficult time in the very beginning to go, I disagree with you, and this is why, because it's speaking truth to power, which is very difficult when you don't have the protection of a union. But once you get past that, man, you start realizing that there is some mutual respect there. It'll flow into you regularly and stuff, and it's really good feeling.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that the power and the confidence that unions can give workers is something that really is undervalued, I think. You know, I mean, we really like talking about, you know, y'all are going to get a 20% raise. I mean, that's great. But I think that so much of the real value of a union is that respect and power and security that you get on the job through those protections that you're going to get in the contract. So let's talk about that. Can you give us some of the highlights? What are the top lines that you feel like, you know, most people are hearing about and people are excited about, and then we'll go into maybe some of the things that you said that people don't even realize yet.
Well, of course, it's the raises and the health care reduction and stuff. Those are immediate for the people, you know, so they're going to see those things immediate and stuff. They're really excited about it, and being able to wear, you know, UAW team wear and stuff. We have that in our contract too. That's going to be exciting for people right now also. But just being able to have a voice and say, hey, that's not how we're supposed to do things. And so now we have to do it the way the contract says. I mean, for example, production workers, they have a job they have to do every single day, the same way every time. Standardized work. Well, at any time, they could change their standardized work based on what they needed far as personnel wise. Well, this guy here today, you can do this and do this. Well, it's not designed that way. It's not engineered that way. It causes quality issues, could cause injuries to someone's body and stuff. So it's way out of whack. Now that's changed. Now you have the right to say, I only have to do this part. I'm not going to jeopardize the quality of the car. I'm not going to jeopardize the quality of my health just because y'all managed not to have the number of people we need to do this job. Those are things they're going to see immediately, and they really talk about a lot.
Right. In particular, the press release mentions as things that improved from the October's supposedly last, best, and final offer from Volkswagen. The press release that mentions that there are new product commitments, there are right-to-strike enhancements, and stronger safeguards against plant closures. So can you explain a little bit about what those are specifically?
So the product allocation and stuff, that it was never, we're going to get this new model, here it is. That wasn't what we were trying to get, and that wasn't what we achieved. What we did achieve was that the company committed to making sure that our plant is successful and employed over the next decades. And in doing so, they have to put more product and more stuff and keep up with technology and everything. And that's what job protection is. That's what product allocation is. That's great for us. I've never seen it in a contract where a company says, we guarantee we'll do something to make sure that your job's protected with more product or whatever it has to do for decades. The word decades is actually in the contract written by the company. It's just amazing. People don't even realize how big that little sentence is. And as far as the like protection for plant closure, plant selling, and all these things, during their last, best, and final, they had a word in there that was very, very vague. It just meant that, if it's practicable to keep the plant open, we will. If it's practical to make sure the union goes with the sale of the plant, then we'll do it. Now that word has been replaced with impossible. So now, if it is impossible to keep the plant open, we can close it. If it's impossible to not sell it, we won't. So that's the things people don't understand. It's just that one little word is how these contracts mean so much. So the word impossible is a great win in our between the last, best, and final and the settlement agreement we signed with them.
I mean, those are pretty different words, I think. I think a lot of people would feel a lot more secure in their job if they had a commitment that, we'll keep going unless it's impossible rather than impracticable. So, that really does, it would seem to cut out arguments about, we could keep this open, but we're only going to make 10% profits and we really want to make 15, and so we're going to close it and we're going to go make more stuff over here. Really closes that avenue for the company, and so that's really, really exciting that y'all were able to get that after Volkswagen said that the October offer was their last, best, and final. Why did y'all keep pushing even though they said in October, this is the best you're going to get?
Well, it's pretty simple but complicated at the same time. If you can't protect what you're gaining in the contract by protecting the jobs and protecting, the plant closures and selling everything, what good is the entire contract? So even though we've gained a lot of stuff in that last, best, and final, there was no protection for it. There was nothing saying that, if something is wrong health and safety wise, you can't stop the plant. You just got to keep doing it no matter if you get injured or not. That we're like, we can't do that. There's, if we find it impracticable, we're just going to shut the plant down and leave. So what good is a contract? What good is that? We would have fought for all these things and we could lose it the day after we signed it. So we had no choice. We went to our membership and said, hey, we need y'all to vote in favor of a strike before we could do a work stoppage and we can actually go after these people and show them that we mean business. And lo and behold, the workers did exactly what they're supposed to do. They gave us a strike vote. We went to come with their strike vote, and that absolutely changed the entire conversation during that last, best, and final offer. That strike vote brought them right back to the table, and we went right back to work. And I'm thankful for all the membership of Volkswagen that gave us the authorization to strike.
Yeah, that dynamic, I think, is really important for people to understand that y'all had to kind of show your mettle to the company that yeah, like, yes, nobody wants to strike, right? I mean, that's just not something that most people want to do, but you do in most cases at least have to show that you're willing to do it. Otherwise, the company is not going to take you, they're just not going to take you as seriously, because if they don't think that you're willing to walk out, then what's their reason to give you more?
Yeah. So and that's true. And they're going to be tested, right? We're going to be tested again sometime in the future. We always are, but strikes are not the best answer.
Right.
It's your last answer. We're like, look, we want to work together. We don't want bad relations with the company. We want to do this fair to everyone, and let's just work together. But when the company says we're not going to work together, it's the only tool left in your toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
When you've done everything else, you try to plead with them and say, no, we're not doing anything else. That's when it's time to stand up and say, you know what, this is just the way it is. I mean, it happens all over the country, but nobody wins from it. You may get the stuff you're asking for, but the relationships are always damaged whenever you do go out on strike. It's not helpful to the relationship, but it is a very necessary thing whenever the company side doesn't want a relationship.
As we're wrapping up, I've got one more question for you, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. Is there anything else in the contract that we haven't touched on that you want to make sure people know about?
Well, the one thing that they really need to understand is that more than anything else, you now know your work rules for 4 years. They're not going to change based on someone's feelings. They're not going to change based on, well, now we need it this way. Oh, now we need it that way. It won't change because of business need. You have work rules. We're going to follow the work rules. We're going to make sure the company follows the work rules. That way, it becomes a lot more calming factor inside the plant. You be more efficient and stuff. Anytime you go to work and you know what your job's going to be when you get there, when you're going to go home, and when you're going to have to not be there, it makes your life a lot easier and a lot less stressful. My brothers and sisters will learn this. They'll learn this over time. And they'll think back like, wow, I didn't even realize that I was so distraught in my life because of the way my work was. And I can't wait for them to realize that. And it's exciting to me to know that's what it's eventually going to be.
Yeah. So, my last question for you, brother, is that, anti-union types are going to argue that that this deal gives you too much, and it does not allow Volkswagen to make enough profits. I actually saw something just last week in response to the ratification. There was a news segment from one of the local stations in Chattanooga, and they had reached out to an economist at UTC, I think University of Tennessee in Chattanooga, and he was like, well, Volkswagen might not expand now because they got to pay these people so much money. So it's kind of a hit and a miss. They're getting a little bit now, but they might lose a little bit later. Is that the case with Volkswagen? I mean, do they make enough money to afford this contract?
Well, I would say that it's pretty simple. A Google search or whatever search that you want to use will understand that Volkswagen is number one, number two, back and forth, richest car companies in the world. They do very, very good for themselves. They have Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini. They're doing very, very well for themselves. Mm-hmm. And all the naysayers out there, just look at our contract. Don't listen to anybody. Look at the contract. When the company said, we didn't write this, the company did. We commit to putting product in our plant to make us successful for decades. Why would they put that in there if they thought the contract was too lucrative for the workers in order to make investment there? It just doesn't make sense. So I just call it, it's a nothing burger. It's just smoke by the anti-union people that don't want you to have something. They don't want you to share the neighborhoods with the rich executives. They don't want you to be on the lake with them with your boats. Mm-hmm. They don't want you to have things. They want you to keep you down and keep you pushed down because it's better for them. So that's all that it is, and it's just nothing. Time will tell. They were all wrong. I challenge every one of those people who said it's not going to work to come back and give out a public apology when it does work and we prove them wrong. I would say that none of them will, but I will. I'll do it. If they shut our plant down because, oh, it was just too expensive, and he's like, well, I will. I know it's not. They know it's not. They just want to stir up trouble and want to cause us not to have the power we need in the workforce.
Well, Steve, I've enjoyed talking to you. One more, and then I'll let you go if you haven't, unless you got anything else that you wanted to say. But over the course of the last 6 months, there's been some. There's been some attempt backed by a management side labor attorney in Chattanooga to decertify the UAW. Where do you think, where has that effort stood throughout the last 6 months? I mean, was there ever any there with that effort? And where does it stand now, you think, with this new contract being ratified?
Well, as far as the decertification goes, talking to our people inside of our plant stuff, it's never really a major worry for us. But at the same time, the people who have that want, we got to figure out why they do and try to make it better for them too, make them better understand. I have no information at all about how close they got or didn't get, other than what the news reporter here in Chattanooga, that one of the people leading the decert, he actually said that we are almost halfway to getting what we need to file for a decert. Well, you've been doing this for 5 months and you're almost halfway. I would say they don't have a chance. Now that we have ratified a contract, they can't decert for 3 years no matter what. They can't file a petition or anything. That doesn't mean we should get quiet on it. That means that we, the union people who are pro-union or anything else, we need to find these people and talk to them. Yep. Find out why are you so against us, and find out why, and try to alleviate some of those fears or some of those anguishes they have in them to make them understand a little better. That's all. They're not our enemies. They're just people who think different than we do, and we should go try to figure out how we can think together.
That's a great attitude, brother. And I've read a couple of books about nurses union organizing, and one of the strategies that those nurses unions employed was they recruited the leader of the anti-union campaign during the campaign. There was a campaign and there was a worker leader on the anti side. And so, the pro side won, they unionized, and they asked the leader of the anti campaign, there was like, look, I mean, you're going to be working under this contract. You've got some following. Why don't you get with us on the bargaining committee and help? You're going to be working under it whether you like it or not. Why don't you help us negotiate this contract? And I think that attitude is very similar to the one that you have here. And I think that's the right attitude to have. You want everybody in the plant now to be a member of the UAW, and I think that you're going to be working towards that goal. So, Brother Steve Cochran, worker at Volkswagen in Chattanooga, co-chair of the UAW's bargaining committee up there, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with before we let you go?
All thing I got to say is that if you're unhappy at work and you think there's a better way to do it, reach out to a union organization, try to get unionized to make your life better. Don't give up and quit and run away and find another job, because the next job will be the same way. Stand up, fight for what you believe in, fight for your workers' rights. Everything will be better for you in the long run. It is my pleasure to be on here with you today, and anytime you need me back, just let me know and I'll come back.
Yes, sir. Will do. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Valley Labor Report. We've got one more segment before we go off the radio, and then we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
The Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, Local 366, is proudly recruiting North Alabama local workers to work construction and nuclear plant maintenance. If you're interested, please contact April at our training center to start the process at 256-904-1753. No experience is needed. We offer free training, but you must be able to pass a background check and a drug test. Local hiring that grows our community with good-paying jobs that have benefits is our mission. Live better, work union, Local 366, feel the power. The Valley Labor Report is also supported by the Communication Workers of America. Learn more at cwa-union.org.
Support for this program is provided by the International Association for Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local Lodge 44 in Decatur, Alabama. Learn more at iamaw44.org.
The Valley Labor Report is also sponsored by the United Automobile, Aerospace, and Agricultural Implement Workers of America, better known as the UAW. UAW. They are one of the largest and most diverse unions in North America, with members in virtually every sector of the economy. UAW-represented workplaces range from multinational corporations, small manufacturers, and state and local governments, to colleges and universities, hospitals, and private nonprofit organizations. The UAW has more than 400,000 active members and more than 580,000 retired members in the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. You can learn more about the UAW and join at uaw.org. The Valley Labor Report is also sponsored by Labor Notes. Labor Notes is a media and organizing project that has been the voice of union activists who want to put the movement back in the labor movement since 1979. You can learn more about Labor Notes at labornotes.org.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time. The attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtnj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services provided is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms.
Support for this program also comes from the Mid-South Council of Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union. Learn more at rwdsu.info.
Union leaders, do you want a powerful website and mobile app built just for your members? The Union Active system, created by Unions America, makes it easy to share news and documents, send alerts, and keep your members engaged anytime, anywhere. Trusted by thousands of unions, Union Active streamlines communication so you can focus on what matters most, your members. With real-time updates, secure messaging, and custom features built for unions, you'll keep your members informed and engaged 24/7. Get Union Active today. Visit unionactive.com to learn more. Union Active, the ultimate website and communication system for unions.
Come on, do poor workers good news to do. I'll tell how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Labor creates all wealth. All wealth should go to labor, and you're listening to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morris, and my co-host is Adam Keller. We are the largest union talk radio program in the southern United States. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're tuning in online, folks, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, give us 5 stars if you're listening to us as a podcast, do all that good stuff. You know, I should search the Tennessee News Podcast, because now we're on the radio in Tennessee. But we have been for a long time now one of the top-rated news podcasts in Alabama on Spotify. Isn't that something? That's pretty crazy. So we got to get up on those charts in Tennessee. So if you're listening to us from Tennessee, find us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars, all of that good stuff. We're coming up on the end of the first half of the program, but find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and TikTok at The Valley Labor Report. We're going to continue with the second half of the program. We're going to be talking to Josh Soffler from the Association for Union Democracy. Really excited for that conversation. We're going to be talking about the economy. I think we're going to be talking about childcare. We're going to be talking about Jesse Jackson, and we're going to be talking about more. We'll also take your calls at the beginning of overtime, 844-899-TVLR, 844-899-8857. We do have one caller in line, and so we'll take that right as we start overtime. If you want to get in line, go ahead and do that now. And really excited for the rest of the show. Adam, we've got a couple of plugs. What do we got?
Sure. Go to labornotes.org/events, and you can find all kinds of really cool upcoming workshops, including on the 23rd. So coming up really soon is an online workshop, Running for Union Office. And I really want to encourage folks to check that out or to share that with folks. Even if you don't think you personally will run for union office, you may learn something here that you can pass along. even if elections are some far off time for your local. Definitely encourage you to check that out. Again, that's February 23rd, 7 p.m. Central, running for union office. Labor Notes also has their Secrets of a Successful Organizer training series kicking back up in March. It's going to start on March 4th. They have a stewards workshop in March on investigating grievances. That's going to be March 16th. March 17th, they have a workshop on what to do when your union breaks your heart. So lots of good online workshops coming up. And of course, the big Labor Notes conference in Chicago is in June, June 12th through 14th. I know I need to go ahead and get my tickets and hotel. So this is my reminder to myself and to you as well. In terms of some in-person stuff happening across the state, it's going to be busy the next few weeks. Alabama Arise Action is holding its Advocacy Day on Tuesday, the 24th. You can go to alarise.org to find out more there. There will be a press conference as well as, typical lobby day activities. The press conference is going to be focused on school breakfast and trying to make sure that every child in Alabama has a no-cost school breakfast. It is totally doable. It is totally achievable. We can do that. It's the right thing to do. Coming up on March 5th through the 8th is the Selma Bridge Crossing Jubilee. Lots of folks will be down in the Selma area. I know AFGE's national president, Reverend Kelly, is going to be giving a speech, I believe, that very first night on the 5th. And the Recall and Justice Coalition is going to be active. There's going to be lots of activities. Of course, the bridge crossing itself is on the 8th. So check that out. And on March 10th, Cover Alabama will have their Healthcare Advocacy Day in Montgomery. So lots of opportunities to go to Montgomery or to go to Selma, and some great online workshops.
Every week in the South, workers are dying on the job. Workers are being injured on the job. Bosses are stealing from workers. Bosses are discriminating against workers. And sometimes they're caught. And when they get caught, we like to tell you about it. In Alabama, a U.S. Department of Labor investigation found numerous safety hazards at a Mobile work site where Construction Labor Services Incorporated workers were exposed to sewage gases, resulting in 2 fatalities. The department's Occupational Safety and Health Administration found that on August 11th, 2025, 3 construction labor service workers were installing and repairing sewer lines inside of a manhole when they were overcome by sewer gas and became unresponsive. One of the workers regained consciousness and managed to self-rescue, but the other 2 workers succumbed to their injuries. Federal safety investigators determined that the employer lacked confined space entry programs, procedures training, and emergency response plans, including plans to determine acceptable entry conditions for confined spaces. So, OSHA cited Construction Labor Services with 16 serious violations and proposed penalties of over $250,000. Over in Tennessee, Stonemore Incorporated, a cemetery and funeral management company, violated federal law when it discriminated against black employees and retaliated against a supervisor after failing to stop complaints about racial discrimination. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, charged in a lawsuit filed last week. According to the lawsuit, Stonemore managers at a Memphis location restricted all black employees from a break room while allowing access to white employees.
Wow, like how blatant can you get?
I mean,
it is,
bro, that's crazy.
It's 2026.
I
mean, I know this happened probably shortly or a few years ago, but still, like, you really thought you could get away with that?
Black people, no blacks allowed. I mean, that's
in the
crazy.
Break room, right there.
That's crazy.
Saying that is totally crazy, and I'm really just sad that it's taken years to get to this point, honestly.
The company also fired a burial supervisor in May of 2022 after a member of his crew complained about similar racial discrimination to the corporate headquarters and threatened to complain to the EEOC. Stonemore managers initially directed the supervisor to restrain his staffer from filing those complaints, threatening him with discharge if he failed. So, threatening this worker complained to corporate headquarters about racial discrimination. Corporate headquarters told the guy's supervisor, if you don't restrain your worker from filing a complaint, we will fire you, the supervisor. I mean, that's bonkers.
Wow.
Segregating employees by race and pressuring supervisors to silence discrimination complaints strike at the core of federal civil rights law, said Catherine Eschbach, acting EEOC General Counsel. The EEOC will continue to hold employers accountable when they attempt to enforce discriminatory practices or retaliate against those who stand up for equal treatment in the workplace. So that is why the EEOC filed suit in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Tennessee after first attempting to reach a pre-litigation settlement through its administrative conciliation process.
That's also a wild detail that this company could have worked this out.
Yeah, they could have done it quiet. They
could have quietly resolved this with the EEOC instead of the whole world knowing just how egregious this racism was in your workplace, and that you not only condoned it, you forced supervisors to encourage this kind of stuff and protect this kind of stuff, and you're putting a supervisor against the wall to say either violate your workers' rights or you're getting fired too. Wild.
And as we're wrapping up Boss Watch, I should note, I mean, I haven't read too much about it, but Lori Chavez DeRemer's husband, Lori Chavez DeRemer, the current Secretary of Labor for the United States, her husband has been banned from DOL offices because he allegedly sexually assaulted multiple Department of Labor employees. I mean, it's not funny. It's really gross. And it's bonkers that I mean, you're the husband of the Secretary of Labor. I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, you got to wonder how Sean O'Brien is feeling about how much political capital he threw into getting this person confirmed as Department of Labor Secretary and how little he's gotten for it. Has he gotten anything? Has there been, I mean, that's my question. Has there been literally anything that Chavez DeRemer has done for the labor movement that would even come, I mean, anything at all, much less anything that would come close to making it worth it for Sean O'Brien to have so vociferously stuck his neck out there for her and the Trump administration?
Yeah, he did. And if you're listening, President O'Brien, 844-899-8857.
Yeah. We've invited him on the show before. He's not, I mean, who knows if he's even seen it, right? But he's always welcome.
Always welcome.
Always welcome. And as some of our detractors would be quick to note, many people think we would probably give him too friendly of an interview. I mean, we're fans of some of what he's done at the Teamsters. So, it wouldn't all be bad. Some of it would be. I mean, I don't even know that I would want to say contentious. I would just be questioning of him.
Sure. Well, I've heard he doesn't like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, he doesn't. I mean, yeah. That's the problem. So that's it for the first half of the program, folks. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. We really appreciate it. As we wrap up, if you want to continue listening to the program, we're going to be talking about union democracy. We're going to be talking about the economy. We're going to be talking about Jesse Jackson. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the Teamsters, and we're going to be talking about, I think we might, if we have time, get to some Epstein stuff. So find us Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch, all at the Valley Labor Report, to continue listening to the program. Got a great second half of the show. Great overtime lined up for you. If you don't, though, we really appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next week. All right, that's it for us on the first half of the show. Got a great second half lined up for you. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be right back.
Come on, you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old union has come in here to dwell.
This is Overtime, a production of the Valley Labor Report, the largest union talk radio and online news outfit in the South, coming to you from the heart of the Tennessee Valley in the Spice Radio studios. Right here in Huntsville, Alabama. We are run by working people and for working people in the South and all over the country. My name is Jacob Morrison. My co-host is Adam Keller. We appreciate you spending some time with us. The phone is open, 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. If you'd like to call in, you can leave us a voicemail at the same number at any time, and you can send us a written note at tvlr.fm/contact. Folks, if you're listening to us on a podcast, give us 5 stars. I want to put it at the beginning of Overtime, so that hopefully people listen, if they don't listen all the way, give us 5 stars wherever you're listening to us, particularly on Apple Podcasts. We've always done pretty good on Spotify, but we're always a little lower on Apple. So if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. I was telling people in the first half of the program that, we have pretty consistently been at the top of the ratings for Alabama news podcasts. But, we're on the radio in Tennessee now. So we want to get that Tennessee number up. So if you're listening to us, particularly if you're from Tennessee, give us 5 stars. And if you're not from Tennessee, also give us 5 stars. Give us 5 stars wherever you're at. If you're not listening to us as a podcast, then give us a like. Demonstrate to whatever platform you are hearing my voice on that you enjoy hearing my voice.
That's right. Even if you don't enjoy it, give it 5 stars regardless. It would be a nice thing to do. Why not?
Exactly.
We haven't done anything to you.
And if you hate listening to my voice, give us 1 star. Interact with this piece of content in some way to demonstrate a engagement to the platform. Doesn't even have to be 5 stars. Give us 1 star. I would prefer you give us 5 stars. But even if you hate us, interact with us in some way. Give us a call. If you hate us, we would really like it if you called. Actually, never mind. If you hate us, don't give us a star. You can do that, but really you should leave us a voicemail. 844-899-TVLR, 844-899-8857. We'd love to. We do not get enough haters calling in. Occasionally we will get some people in the comments, but very rarely does somebody call in. And we love hate calls. I live for them. Adam, not so much. He doesn't get the same thrill out of it that I do. No, but you do, and I live vicariously through that. And it's appreciated. That's right. All right, let's take a call. We'll start with a 256 area code. 256 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from? I think this is Dwayne. Dwayne, what's on your mind?
Hey, Jacob. Hey, Adam. Well, I was going to tell you, I really support you guys. I have 3 million views on Quora, 247,000 every week. And y'all are on there and viewed over 2,000 times. You're on the news talk radio of Quora that I have the rights to, and History of Horrors, with all kinds of, like a whole bio of you guys. So if you should go on there and just see what, and they get hundreds of views with actually links to come to listen to your station. Well, now, that's awesome. What I wanted to inform you of was remember Stacey George and us, our staff members, were working on legislation to help with the Alabama Solution Problems Bully with a Badge. And we did get some success, y'all. This is really, really great.
Yeah, are you talking about
the 19th?
Are you going to talk about Larry Stutz's?
I'm going to talk about Senate Bill 316 for the creation of a prison oversight director. Is that the one you're familiar with?
Is that the one that Larry Stutz just supported?
He is part of it, and
did you say 316?
There are 8 senators. There are 8 senators on it, and one of the main ones is Wes Kitchens. He crossed over party lines to be a part of that too, guys. He's from the Marshall County, Blount County, DeKalb County area.
Yeah. No, I drive through there not irregularly, and I see his signs all over the place. So I'm really glad to see that. So yeah, give us the Senate bill number again and a little bit about what it does. Yes,
Senate Bill 316, just like in the Bible, John 3:16, so that way you can remember it. Please call your legislators, everyone, and say that you are in support of this. This would create a prison oversight director for the situations, just like where Officer Gadsden, maliciously, he wound up dying in the movie. Those type of situations would be held accountable for by this director with specifications for doing so. So that's a big step for Alabama to actually have someone that their job title and requirements will make them deal with those situations and handle when someone shows a history of violence and actually look into it. Couldn't be more important than that. That's a big step because we do nothing. Remember, we promoted the guy that committed that violence. Of course, now he's under, he's in trouble now. But yes, that's a very important. Make a call, SB 316-316.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Stacy was there right in the middle of it, showing him the aspects of the bill he created that moved toward that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. And I'm glad to see the bipartisan support. I see that. Yeah, Senator Stutz, Figures, Beasley, Smitherman, Singleton, Woods, Kitchens, and Coleman Madison. So a good mix of Republicans and Democrats on that.
Yeah,
that's great.
He actually crossed over. He crossed over while he was there, speaking to every one of them, showing him his aspects of the, bully with a badge, which would have taken care of the problem of any time a law enforcement officer or corrections officer shows a history of violence, you would actually take action against that. They wouldn't be able to be promoted. They would get reprimanded or lose their job. But we weren't able to get it that far. But at least we did get all that done. That's doing it. And we really are thankful to Senator Stutz too, because he's super instrumental in that.
Yeah,
that's
but thanks for having me on, guys. And don't forget to go look News Talk Radio on Quora. Right. Or I can tell you my name. My name is Duane, D-U-A-N-E-C, Woodall, W-O-O-D-A-L-L. If you look that up on Quora, you can just put Jacob Morris or Adam Keller, and it will take you to all the areas that I've really done stories about you guys and clips and everything. So appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate it, Duane.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Yeah, that was. I was glad to hear that about this bill because Senator Stutz is my senator, and I haven't been very impressed. Is one way to say it. He's not very responsive to constituents.
Is he the one that said that about woke for the PSC, or was that?
No, that was my state representative, Danny Crawford. I'll give Crawford credit. He does typically respond, and we have ongoing dialogue. But yeah, Senator Stutz typically not very good about that. I've been trying to catch up with him for a while, but glad to see he's willing to work across party lines on something that's really, really important because the prison crisis in Alabama is just out of control.
Yeah. So Senator Larry Stutz he wrote an op-ed that circulated pretty widely. I think the conservative media sites ran it, and I think AL.com may have too, but here he says, my bill, SB 316, is now under consideration in the Alabama Senate. It takes a practical, measured step towards addressing this gap. If enacted, the gap being for too long oversight of our correction system has been fragmented, informal, or housed too close to the very institutions it is meant to examine. That is not a criticism of individual employees, and he's not saying this, but I am, although maybe it should be. Back to him. He says, it is a recognition of structural weakness. No system functions well when asked to police itself. Conservative governance has always understood this. Accountability protects institutions. It does not undermine them. So that's pretty good. So he says, my bill, SB 316, is now under consideration and takes a measured step towards addressing this gap. If enacted, it would formalize and strengthen the existing oversight role within the Department of Examiners of Public Accounts, expand its capacity and giving clear authority to inspect facilities, review conditions of confinement, assess staffing and safety, and report findings publicly. It would create a corrections oversight board to ensure transparency and public input. It would move criminal investigations out of the Department of Corrections and into the State Bureau of Investigation, where independence is essential to credibility, and it would restore the use of special prosecutors in jurisdictions with major prison facilities to ensure cases originating inside prisons receive proper attention. I mean, I think that's pretty good. He started the op-ed quoting scripture, he said, "As a Christian, my faith and personal relationship with Jesus teaches me that responsibility does not end when a person is inconvenient, unpopular, or out of sight. Scripture is clear on this point, instructing us to, quote, continue to remember those in prison as if you were together with them in prison, and those who are mistreated as if you yourselves were suffering." From the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 3. He says, that is a clear and unwavering moral command, and as a state senator, I take it seriously. When the state takes custody of a human being, it assumes serious moral and legal responsibility. I agree with that completely. So there you go, SB 316. We got another caller on the line. This caller from a 617 area code. We got to get to our guest pretty quickly, but want to get this call. You've been waiting a while, so want to get to it. 617 area code, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Murphy. I'm a city carrier. I'm also co-host of Next Generation Carriers podcast.
Yes.
I was calling in regards to the previous city carrier that just called in.
Mm-hmm.
Our podcast just had Brian Renfro on, and he was talking about the contract surveys, the contract rallies, the rank and file committees. So any city carrier that's listening, give it a listen. But I want to address the general public that is not part of the Postal Service world. The OIG, the Office Inspector General, they did a report, and they found that the Postal Service wasted nearly $1 billion, billion, over the course of 3 years with non-compliance to the contract. A contract is between two parties, right? The union and the employer. And the employer is willingly breaking the contract. The employer is currently saying that they're broke. In the 1990s, there was one manager for every 21 city carriers. Currently in 2025, there is one manager for every 7 city carriers.
Wow.
So the management has got bloated. Yeah. So the management is bloated. They're willingly breaking the contract. And to top it off, the new hires for city carrier craft is called the CCA. 70% of them quit within the first year. So the post office is broke, not because of the decline of mail or the labor costs. They're broke because of management. And the NELC, the National Association of Letter Carriers, is not going after management. So I proposed the question to Brian Renfro, the president of the union, if the rank and file move forward on May 22nd, 2026, the day the contract expires, it's the Friday of Memorial Day weekend. If we move forward with informational pickets outside of our post offices before we clock in and highlight the mismanagement, would National NALT endorse this? And he kind of didn't even answer that question. So everyone out there, please talk to your city carriers. I know there's a rally coming up February 22nd. It's more of a pep rally to get us interested in the contract negotiations. But going forward, we need the labor movement to unite. And we could all unite around the idea that the boss is the target, right?
Right.
And we deserve a living wage. So any city carriers that are listening, don't wait for your branches. Don't wait for your leadership. It is up to the rank and file to revive our union, and especially with the postal workers. City carriers are about to go into contract negotiations, and the mail handlers, the ones that move around the mail, they're still in contract negotiations, and they're fighting for the scraps that the APWU, the clerks, left at the table. So how can we fight for a fair contract if the other unions in the postal universe is still fighting for a fair contract?
Right.
At some point, we need to realize, having 4 different unions collectively begging at different times is only benefiting management. So I just want to call and clarify that city carriers' demands should be 30 for 30, a $30 an hour starting pay, because currently you come in as a non-career, make very little benefit, and you get paid $21 an hour, which is unsustainable across the country. Miami, LA, New York, Chicago, you can't survive off that.
Right.
And 30 for 30, I say it because you hear a lot of bureaucrats saying, well, if they're broke, how can we afford it? Easy. We lay off management. It's so bloated that we need to go after management. So I just want to call, let people know what's going on, and solidarity with everyone across the country that is taking to the streets. We need to start flexing our muscles. You might not agree with Brian Renfro, but that comes in October when the election of our union is. But right now, we got to be a collective and stand united for the public, for our employer, and for the future of the labor movement. So thank you.
Yeah, Murphy, thanks for the call. And if you're a letter carrier, I hadn't seen this interview yet, but you go to Next Generation Carriers on YouTube, and one of their most recent videos from just 2 days ago is an interview with Brian Renfro. He's given them a bunch of interviews. I'm kind of surprised at how often he goes on the Next Generation Carriers podcast, given how critical they are of him. But I mean, look, you say what you will about Brian Renfro. I mean, he's willing to talk to people, I guess, right? I mean, that is commendable, if nothing else.
Sure.
So yeah, appreciate that, Murphy, and look forward to continuing to cover the contract negotiations and looking forward to seeing what y'all are able to get. So I think we got our next guest in the Zoom. We're going to be talking about union democracy with Joshua Soffler, the program director for the Association for Union Democracy. Josh, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jacob, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Really excited to talk to you. For folks who don't know, the Association for Union Democracy, or AUD, is the only national pro-labor nonprofit organization dedicated solely to advancing the principles and practices of democratic trade unionism in the North American labor movement. Soffler has been with AUD for over a year and is helping revitalize its education program, along with supporting reformers and union dissidents fighting for stronger member-run democratic unions. Is there anything else that, as far as what the AUD is, or your role that you think is important to highlight for people before we start talking about the some of the other stuff?
Yeah, AUD has been around since the 1960s, really. At a time when the labor movement looked very different. We've been advocating for the rights of rank and file members, and a lot of our work consists of organizing, legal, and education support. Sometimes that means we help people find lawyers when their rights have been violated. Other times it's just, helping people know what their rights are and shining a light. And we've done some coverage of, reform caucuses, and we have a publication called the Union Democracy Review, where we talk about the different struggles that have happened over the history of the labor movement in the last 80 years. In relation to people fighting for their rights and people trying to kick the mob out of their union and get rid of self-serving officials so that, rank and file members can have their voices heard. So it's a mix of education, journalism, and that legal support.
So why does the Association for Union Democracy believe that internal democracy for unions is important for the labor movement?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason we have a union is to bring democracy to the workplace. Without a union, the workplace is inherently authoritarian. And we're really not doing too much good for workers if we just replace that with an authoritarian union. And our labor movement, as you know, is very diverse in the sense of unions across the spectrum have very different internal cultures. And we believe that promoting transparency and member-led unionism is the best way to build a stronger labor movement, free of self-serving people and corruption. Yeah.
And it's I think it's important. It's important for that reason, but also, the ability of unions to extract gains from employers is precisely correlated to the degree with which they can get their members to act. And members are much more likely to act if they have a real if they have a real voice on the job and within their union, rather than the union being kind of a third party institution that exists to service members, that members don't really view themselves as being part of, or being, when members don't view themselves as being the union, then it really becomes, a lot more difficult for them to justify acting on behalf of the union. I mean, Labor Notes has a really great book called "Democracy is Power" that kind of demonstrates the strategic value that internal democracy brings to unions and their campaigns, and so it's not just in my view, it's not just a moral and legitimacy thing for unions to be internally democratic, but it's a strategic imperative, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. If the power in your union is held within 2 to 5 officials, and everyone else doesn't even feel like they're a part of the union, how can you expect the union to organize new workers and wage strong contract campaigns that raise the standards not just for those workers, but across the industries that they represent? That is very core to this relationship you're talking about.
And so what is one of the things that, structurally at this point protects internal democracy and defends internal democracy for unions is the LMRDA and the Union Member Bill of Rights. Can you explain for the audience what those are?
Yeah, it's a lot of union members might be familiar with the National Labor Relations Act or Taft-Hartley. The LMRDA, also known as the Landrum-Griffin Act, was passed in 1959, and it's kind of the lesser of the talked about labor bills. It stands for the Labor and Reporting Management Disclosure Act. Terrible acronym. And this bill was passed by Congress to kind of rein in the power of organized labor in a certain way by regulating it. And part of that was to regulate against, the mob influence in the unions and the labor movement that existed in the 1950s. So a lot of the requirements are kind of in relation to disclosure and financial disclosure. Unions have to file LM2 reports, which kind of disclose all of their finances to the government, and that information is public. But in that, Congress also saw the importance of giving union members rights. And Title I of the LMRDA is something called the Union Member Bill of Rights. And it pretty much guarantees union members a certain degree of democratic autonomy that other workers do not have. Before I get into the Union Member Bill of Rights, it's important to talk about who is covered, who does the LMRDA cover? Because it's not everyone, unfortunately. So the LMRDA covers all private sector workers, similar to the NLRA. It does not represent solely public sector unions. However, if you're in a public sector union and your local also represents private sector workers, like it's a mixed private public, your entire local is covered by the LMRDA. And federal sector workers have similar rights, but it's through the Civil Service Reform Act. There's a few differences, but for the most part, federal workers and federal unions have these same rights. Yeah. But getting into...
Yeah, go ahead.
Or what were you going to
say? Just go ahead.
So kind of getting into the meat of what are these rights? The big thing that comes forward first is equal rights. All union members have equal rights and privileges to do things like nominate candidates, vote in elections, or do referendums. You have the ability to attend, participate, and vote in union meetings, and have secret ballot, elections. And different unions have different rules that have to be reasonable to regulate these kinds of rules. But for the most part, everyone has those same equal rights. The big thing that's been very present recently is free speech. You have the right as a union member to criticize your union officials. You have the right to express your viewpoints at union meetings, and you have the right to distribute literature and the right to belong to a reform caucus and to advocate for a different vision for the union outside of, what the official, union leadership prescribes. Um, you know, Unions can also kind of regulate some rules here. You can't just scream at the top of your lungs at a union meeting all night. But for the most part, you are protected. And, another thing is like you have due process rights. If a union is accusing you of doing something that violates the bylaws, you have the right to like receive specific charges that are written. You have the right to cross-examine people, and you have the right to like a trial. And if those rights are violated, you have a certain degree of recourse. Um, and your union cannot retaliate against you for exercising any of these rights. Um, if it comes down to it, like if you have to sue your union, which we'll get into enforcing your rights, like or advocate in any way to assert your rights, your union can't like kick you out of the union for doing that. Congress saw that there's an importance to being protected as a union dissident or as a union reformer for people who want to really strengthen their union.
Right. And so, yeah, what are some of the things that people can do to enforce those rights that they have?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on what the issue is. But when it comes to things like equal rights or free speech or being able to get a copy of your, contract or your ability to inspect your union's finances, a lot of these things you have to first go through your internal union procedures. So a lot of unions have this idea of like, okay, if you have an issue within the union, you go to your local executive board and they have like effectively an internal grievance process. And the local executive board will hold a trial and give you a decision. And the same goes for, you can appeal that to your international or your regional local body. Once you've exhausted those resources or those remedies, you can go to federal court, federal district court, and sue your union. This is not an easy process. There aren't many lawyers who can do this work, and it is very difficult. But there is Congress has given workers a certain right to have those rights enforced. Now, in regards to elections and union officer elections, Congress said, okay, we don't want people going to court saying like, oh, this person stole a ballot out of the ballot box and whatnot. So the Department of Labor oversees and the Office of Labor Management Standards oversees union elections. So you can also go through your internal union procedures to deal with election violations, but you also can file a complaint to the Department of Labor after your union officer election saying, hey, they took my name off the ballot. I've been trying to run for union officer and they took my name off the ballot. What do I do? And depending on what the Department of Labor's findings are, they can order the union to rerun an election. Those are kind of the two main enforcement mechanisms.
Gotcha.
Now, it's important to note that there are some things as a union member that you can't do, that you aren't protected for. If you participate in a wildcat strike, your union can hold you accountable to that. If you advocate to decertify your union, they can hold you accountable for that. Or if you don't pay dues or you cross a picket line. So those are some of those actions that are very anti-solidarity, very anti-union democracy that also, aren't protected under the LMRDA.
Right. And so, a big thing that your organization does is offer trainings and, general union democracy education stuff. So what opportunities exist, in the near to midterm from AUD that union members could take advantage of?
Yeah, I would say a big thing is like knowing your rights alone is kind of the first step to enforcing them. And on our website at uniondemocracy.org, we have a Title I flyer, which is kind of the flyer that gets into all of what these rights are and how to enforce them. And we encourage people to go and download this and share this with their fellow union members so they know what their rights are. And in the worst case scenario, their rights are violated, they kind of have an idea of what to do. And what you should do first is reach out to the Association for Union Democracy for kind of advice and in terms of what your case looks like and where it should go. a lot of these legal remedies, it's important to remember are just one tool in the toolbox, and they aren't the most effective, and they often aren't, the best way to go. Sometimes often organizing is within your union is the best way to enforce your rights and be able to build a more democratic union. So you can find this flyer on our website. We are also starting to offer more like know your rights trainings. And we'll be doing that publicly in the near future. But if you are a member of a caucus or a group of workers who would like a training like this, please reach out to us, and we can come to y'all and host a training that goes through these rights.
How much does the Association for Union Democracy think about and like work with members on kind of strategically what makes sense in the context of a union campaign or in the context of like internal union politics? Because like, as I'm thinking about, I have, some workers have come to me and alleged, various, generally very low level offenses against them from their union officers, and I have never gotten word of anything that has been so egregious that I would recommend, filing even internal charges against the offending officer, even though probably by the letter and even the spirit of the law and the regulations, they would be, guilty of violating, their internal union guidelines on democracy and worker participation and stuff like that. But I've generally counseled against it because, for one, the violations have been been pretty low level, and also, a lot of times, even if you win, at most the officer kind of gets a slap on the wrist, and potentially you have antagonized the leader and their allies. Almost never do you find a union leader who is a union leader because they have zero allies. And so by doing that, and even if you get a slap on the wrist, you have antagonized the leader and their allies against you and anybody that is allied with you, and you've then made it more difficult for your kind of movement or caucus, formal or informal, to act within your local union in a positive way. And so, just recently, like a month ago, I had somebody call me and kind of talk to me about this. And I was like, look, if you go through this whole process and you file charges and you blah, 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 and it's going to take months at the soonest, years at the latest, and you're going to have to pour in so much time into documenting conversations, going and finding emails, going and finding text messages, and you're going to have to put hours and hours and hours and hours of work for maybe a slap on the wrist. And instead of that, like, why don't you just go and you should just go and do the things that you think your local president should be doing instead of wasting all this time with kind of the legal process. And ultimately, if you do that, I would wager that not only will you actually start to accomplish some of the things that you would like your local president to be doing, but you will strengthen your movement to then take over the union, because none of what was alleged was like illegalities or election malfeasance. It was just like incompetence and like general not doing the job well. And so how much does the AUD think about like strategically what makes sense for actually enforcing union democracy?
Yeah, I think the strategy of it is super important because, as you said, falling back on legal tools is often not the most strategic thing, especially if you are unorganized in your union and you don't have much power. It might just be like one or two people who want to change the union. That can make you a target, and that can make you vulnerable to further retaliation. Even though you might have some remedies for them, it could sap the strength out of a movement. So we definitely want to think about strategy, and that's why we often, tell people to put organizing first. And we work with groups like Labor Notes so that people can go to organizing trainings and really center what they want to change about their union first. Sometimes the law can help achieve that, but often you're right, it can't. Unfortunately, there are sometimes such egregious cases where people are being retaliated in a way of like they're being threatened with expulsion from the union,
Right.
and in a place where they won't even be able to continue the fight of union reform. And those cases can be egregious and are very unfortunate. And I think that's when sometimes when you do need to lean on the law a little bit more. But as you said, it very much depends on the case, and there is kind of a scale of what is strategic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very, very glad to hear that. And I figured that was the case. I know that y'all have a pretty close relationship with Labor Notes, so I assumed that was the case. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because I've talked to Adam about it some. And there's a lot of people who would really just like to be able to call their manager, to call the manager and get somebody else, or call the teacher and get somebody else to kind of fix the problems. And fortunately or unfortunately, that's just not really the way that the world works most of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's why I think stressing the education of a lot of union members don't even know these rights exist in the first place, where like just knowing them can be the first step.
And like knowing them and
right to organize.
Exactly. Knowing them and publicly proclaiming that you know them is really, in many cases, probably enough, enough movement in the direction of enforcing their rights to get, any low-level union leader who's doing some low level of like malfeasance to kind of back off. Because, a lot of times, probably a lot of union leaders don't even know very much about what rights their rank and file members have. And so, if their rank and file members start talking about, their rights under the law and their rights under their union constitution, that's probably, that may be enough to get the leader to kind of back off from any sort of retaliation that they're engaging in. So, Josh, I really appreciate your time. Josh Soffler is the program director for the Association for Union Democracy. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with before we let you go?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please check us out at uniondemocracy.org. We have a number of resources and books that we sell, and reach out if you believe your rights have been violated or you just want to learn more. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I really appreciated that and encourage folks to bookmark that website, uniondemocracy.org. That flyer he referenced is really solid. It's a really great one-pager about the union members' Bill of Rights. And it's all basic stuff, and it may not be anything that you have to worry about a whole lot in your current local. But unfortunately, there are locals across the country, where even like you said, Jacob, maybe in some cases it's not intentional, but practices have developed over time, or maybe culture has developed over time to where certain things just aren't getting done, or certain things just aren't, transparent like they should be. And so it's good to know that. And I agree with you. I think a lot of times just knowing those rights, educating your fellow members, speaking up publicly in meetings and likewise, really can make a big difference.
Yeah. You want to talk about Jesse Jackson?
I think we can. Yeah, I think we can. I definitely wanted to talk about him today. Yeah, we can.
All right. Yeah, let's do that. You want to say anything before we play the clip, or do you want to play the clip first?
I'll just say that, a couple of things, I guess. This is one of my favorite speeches by Jesse Jackson, and he's someone I've been listening to pretty much the whole time I've been in politics and organizing, for most of my adult life at this point. And I think whatever you think of Jackson's politics or him as a person, you can recognize someone who is a master of rhetoric and someone who really knows how to give a hell of a speech. He had some really great ones. He had some great one-liners he could hit you with. But the thing that really stands out to me is that, a lot of folks who came of age in the last 10 years or so in politics have been really inspired by the Bernie Sanders campaigns in 2016 and 2020. And it's remarkable how much Jesse Jackson's campaigns in the 80s were really precursors to that. Very similar theory of change in terms of activating the non-voters, the disengaged, trying to bring a coalition of poor and working class people across racial lines with the Rainbow Coalition, and really leaning on, trying to get out and activate the marginalized and get those folks to the polls, and doing that with a message of progressive populism and being willing to stand up to the corporate interest. And of course, in the 80s, right, this is like the height of Reaganism. And we know the opposition that Sanders faced in his runs, and certainly the opposition that Jackson faced as well, not just from corporate interests, but from racial bigotry as well. So all that to say, certainly heard the news this week that he passed, and it really made an impact on me, and so we wanted to share a little bit of his work with y'all today, and we also wanted to just lift up that damn near every union out there put a press release out this week about Jesse Jackson, because throughout his career he showed up for pretty much every union out there. You can find him, standing in solidarity with the UAW, with the machinists, with the, SEIU, you name it. He probably was there at some point. And so that's something that I really, really appreciate. Someone who stood with labor, stood with poor and working class people, and tried to give a voice for poor and working class people, and speak to our need to organize collectively and come together as a rainbow and really reshape this country.
Let's play clip 3.
Jesse Jackson, running for the Democratic nomination in 1984, addresses a crowd at Tindley Baptist Church in Philadelphia.
8 Democrats running for the nomination. This time around, you got a chance and you got a choice. You want somebody who marched for you to get the right to vote. You got a choice. You want somebody who challenged corporate America to hire you and give you contracts. You got a choice. It's choice time. All this talk about qualification. What do blacks know about foreign policy? It's an insult. I was 3 years old. I came into my consciousness. My daddy was coming home from the war. Foreign policy. If he was so dumb, how'd he get over there and get back? If he didn't know foreign policy, why'd they give him a gun? And when they gave it to him, he knew which way to shoot. We know foreign policy. When you buy Honda and Toyota, that's foreign policy. That's right. Russian vodka, that's foreign policy. Panasonic and Sony, that's foreign policy. Mercedes-Benz, that's foreign policy. As a matter of fact, we came here on a foreign policy. Yeah! I know y'all in a hurry, I'm gonna leave it now. It's time for a new course, a new coalition, a new leadership. Somebody got to rise above race, rise above sex, a new leadership, a choice, a chance. Don't cry about what you don't have, use what you got. Reagan won the last time, not by genius. Reagan won when we were asleep. He won by the margin of despair. He won by the margin of the fracture of our coalition. He won by the margin of racial division. He won by default. I close with another story. There's a little shepherd boy named David. Everybody in town was scared of Goliath. Philadelphia, your time has come. Don't stop at the mayor's office. Go on higher. Because you must never forget that about the time we began to take over cities, Nixon shifted the power to the suburbs. And now Reagan shifted it to the states. So you got mayors with more and more responsibility and less power. We've got more and more folk and fewer services. We cannot stop. We got to rise on higher. Little David. Little David. Little David. Took off his unnecessary garments. Little David. Didn't want to get weighted down with a lot of foolishness. Little David. Took what God gave him, a slingshot and a God biscuit, a rock. Our problem today is, David, the reason we're going to organize Pennsylvania and win because we're going to stop the rocks. It's been laying around and pick them up. That's right. In 1980, Reagan won Massachusetts by 2,500 votes. There were over 100,000 students unregistered, over 50,000 blacks, over 50,000 Hispanics. He won by 2,500. Ted Kennedy's state. Rocks just laying around. He won Illinois by 300,000 votes. 800,000 unregistered blacks, 500,000 Hispanics. Rocks just laying around. He won. In 1980, 3 million high school students unregistered to vote. Now they've been registered to draft. Rocks just laying around. 11 million college students who could have chosen jobs over jails and peace over wall that didn't vote. Now they're crying. Rocks just laying around. Reagan won 8 southern states by 182,000 votes. But there were 3 million unregistered blacks in them same 8 states. Rocks just laying around. He won New York by 165,000 votes. 600,000 students unregistered. 900,000 blacks. 600,000 Hispanics. Rocks just laying around. 1980, Reagan won Pennsylvania by 300,000 votes. 400,000 students unregistered. More than 600,000 blacks unregistered. Reagan won Pennsylvania by the margin of despair, by the margin of the fracture of our coalition. Your time has come. Pick up your slingshot. Pick up your rock. Declare our time has come. A new day has begun. Red, yellow, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Our time has come.
I mean, really, obviously a gifted orator. One of the things that really stood out to me is, you know, you can find people that are really gifted orators, but who in their impressive oration do not actually have much to say.
Right.
And there was, I mean, you know, great movement and passion and one-liners, but within those, the passion and the movement and the one-liners is, I mean, just an astounding amount of substance, like real stuff that, you know, I mean, he was not just speaking to speak. that's something, as I listen to people today, and sometimes, you have like really gifted orators who, so often that there's just not actually that much to say. And then you go back and you listen to some of the old speeches from MLK or from Jesse Jackson or from other people. FDR, the substance in those speeches are really hit me as I, kind of feel like so much has been lost today. And Adam mentioned that just about every union put out a statement on the passing of Reverend Jesse Jackson. I want to list off the collection that we found of them: the AFL-CIO, the Labor Federation, the United Auto Workers, the United Electrical Workers (UE), the Stagehands Union, International Association of Theatrical and Stage Employees, the Communication Workers of America, the American Federation of Teachers, the International Association of Machinists, the Service Employees International Union, and I'm sure there were others, but those were just the ones that we found. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to lift up this comment someone left in our YouTube chat because I thought this was interesting. The year that Jesse won Alabama's vote in the Democratic primary, 2 local TV stations had 0 reporters at his local headquarters to interview anyone. They were that certain a black person could not win an Alabama vote.
And I did not realize that he won the primary in 1988. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I just looked it up, and he did. In 1988, Jesse Jackson won the Alabama primary. He got 176,000 popular votes to Al Gore's 151,000, and both of them got 28 delegates. So that was with Jesse Jackson receiving 43% of the vote and Al Gore receiving 37%. That's I did not realize that. Did you know that?
I had forgotten that. I hadn't heard that about his Alabama victory in a long time. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. Someone else, or actually Huntsville Dem Worker, also remarked on the margin of despair. And that was one of the things about that speech that did really sit with me, is there is a theory of change being explained here. And it resonates with me in Alabama because I think about how Alabama and states here in the South are just written off, right? We're considered to be so conservative, so right-wing, it's a lost cause. And you look at the elections, and sometimes, it seems that way. But, our current Republican governor, Kay Ivey, she won in a landslide in 2022, but only 1 in 4 Alabamians even voted for her. Over 60% didn't even participate in the election. Are those all rocks just lying around for us to pick up? I don't think they all are, but some of them are. And I think that's really, really critical to look at how we continue to build the coalition and build out and get more and more people engaged and participating and spreading the word, getting their friends and family and coworkers involved. Because that's the only way we can do it, is through people power. The wealthy and the powerful, they have so much on their side, but we have strength in numbers. And when we as working people come together, we bring our talents and skills and our relationships together, we can really do amazing things. And I think that's really the spirit of Jesse's campaigns and the long career of service he provided.
Yeah, I saw in the wake of his passing, there was some people talking about it on Twitter, and there was an old news article shared about the press conference where Bernie Sanders endorsed Jesse Jackson, and he apparently got punched by a constituent for endorsing Jesse Jackson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, so there you go.
Oh, and
nice connection.
And I'm glad I remembered this because I didn't want to forget it. I have had a long time fascination with the paper workers. And I read a book called The Betrayal of Local 14 about a paper strike in Maine in, I think, 1987, 88. And so this was around the time that Jesse Jackson was running for president again. And he came up there and spoke at one of their strike rallies. And there was a I mean, the local overwhelmingly voted to endorse him. And not only that, I mean, there were also interviews with some of the white workers who were, I mean, obviously still, I mean, racism is still prevalent in the United States, but at that time, no doubt more so. And one of the people interviewed was a white woman. And she had said before Jesse J. I'm not quoting it, right? It's been years since I've read the book, but it goes something like this: before I met Jesse Jackson and was convinced of his dedication to working people and his support for us and our strike, I would have never thought I would vote for an N-word. But today, I just donated to his campaign.
Wow.
I mean, and obviously still some racism and problematic stuff in that, but that is how powerful he was for at that time and for years after that to so many people, just normal working folks across the country.
And the power of solidarity, the power of showing up for each other in your struggles really goes a long way. And it doesn't mean you have to agree with everybody or think the same or look the same or anything like that. But if you recognize that an injury to one is an injury to all, and you really believe that, and you take that to heart, it can open a lot of doors, and it can open a lot of hearts, I think. Mm-hmm. And, his career proved that. And, it's a challenge for all of us to keep that going.
Yeah. So let's see. What do we want to talk about now? 844-899-TVLR is the phone number if anybody wants to call in. 844-899-8857. We've been sitting on this on a segment about childcare for a couple of weeks, Adam. You want to talk to us about that?
Sure, yeah. There's been some news over the last month or two about child care services, and child care is an issue that just keeps coming up in conversations I have with folks. And basically, I'll give you some of the news that's been happening. Federal officials from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services had announced a plan a little while ago to freeze certain low-income child care assistance funds, including programs that help subsidize care for working families. And it was made without clear guidance to state authorities. It created a lot of confusion, a lot of concern among parents and providers, including in Alabama, but really nationwide, about how child care services are going to be sustained. And state child welfare advocates say the lack of communication has left a lot of families unsure. It's left a lot of daycare providers unsure on what's going on and, whether they're going to continue. And so it's programs like the Child Care and Development Fund and related family assistance supports that states use to help families pay for child care. And obviously, a lot of people depend on child care to be able to be in the workforce. We hear a lot of complaints in Alabama from our politicians about workforce participation rate. And when you scratch a little bit, just a little bit, you can uncover that a lot of people would be in the workforce if they had the ability to be in the workforce full time. A lot of people would like full time, but they're at part time. Or maybe they're not in the workforce at all right now, but it would at least like to pick up part-time work. Childcare is one of the biggest barriers that a lot of folks are facing, not just the cost of it, right? Because you have to justify that the job that you're leaving your children for is going to actually pay enough to pay for the childcare and leave you something on the other side of it. And frankly, there's too many jobs who really, aren't paying enough. They're just not paying enough to make childcare worth it. But, it's not just the cost, it's the availability. There are a lot of areas, especially here in our state, but I know nationwide, there's a lot of areas, including rural areas, where it's really hard to find childcare. I mean, especially if you're looking for something that's like quality and, it's your children. You're looking for quality. You want to be, want to be content that things are safe and things are productive and they're in a good environment to learn and to play and be safe. And there's just a lack of availability of childcare, especially for manufacturing workers and folks who are on third shift, second shift. That's something we hear a lot about. It's just really difficult to maintain a family life balance when you're working those kind of schedules. And, we have a lot of plants that like to use rotating shift schedules. So you're on, second shift for a few weeks, then you're on third shift, then you're on first shift, and you keep going back and forth. And navigating childcare in that scenario is incredibly different or incredibly difficult. And so in regards to this freeze or, potential freeze, AFSCME and SEIU, along with a coalition of small business groups, they did file a legal challenge to stop the administration's attempt to freeze more than $10 billion in those child care and family assistance funding. And they're arguing that the freeze is unlawful and politically motivated because it's targeting funding in 5 states in particular: California, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, and New York. I seem to notice some things about those states. And so it's unclear why this is happening beyond just, pure meanness. It's going to harm vulnerable families. It's going to harm the child care providers. Child care providers in the lawsuit note that closing programs or denying access to these funds means that parents have to choose between working and caring for their kids. And therefore, small business owners actually lose dependable workers if families can't find care. AFSCME has put out a lot recently about it. They did a couple blog posts about it, which I appreciated, talking about how really we should see childcare as essential public infrastructure. Just like roads and bridges and hospitals, childcare should be considered essential infrastructure to a functioning economy and a functioning community. And so I think there's a lot of ways we can do that. States like New Mexico have already taken steps toward universal or, income-based childcare investments. And I think that's huge. We really could provide childcare for everybody. In the short term, though, I think that unions are well positioned for us to negotiate for more childcare benefits. And I think it's also something we can consider when we're looking at community benefits agreements and we're, trying to secure commitments from companies that want to operate in our states. This is a real issue. This is a real issue that a lot of working families are dealing with, spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month on childcare, if they are lucky enough to find some that works for them. And so this is an opportunity, I think, for the labor movement to unite around this issue. It resonates with a lot of people. We can advance pro-childcare policies in state houses and legislatures, but we can also bargain for these benefits in our contracts. I wanted to just mention that, and I wanted to lift up AFSCME for really highlighting this issue and putting out a lot of information about the issue. So they're doing good work. I know they represent child care workers in many cases, and so it's a win-win. It is a win-win to invest in child care. It helps with gender equity. It helps with workforce participation. Helps with academic achievement. It helps economic activity, and it helps our real quality of life for everyday people. Unions are speaking out on this issue, and I really appreciate it. It's essential public infrastructure, and it's something that workers need protections and funding for, not political gamesmanship from this administration.
Let's see. We've got a small Epstein story. We haven't talked very much about Epstein. We're a union radio program, and there's just not been very many points of contact between the labor movement and the Epstein story. And I was talking to Adam about it yesterday just a little bit, and my first thought on the fact that, as far as I can tell, there have been no union officials implicated in the Epstein files. My first thought was like, oh, isn't that great? Look at how kind of morally upright the labor movement is. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, unfortunately, I know that there are very many union leaders, or that there are at least some union leaders who are less than morally upright and probably would have been willing to fraternize with Epstein if they had been given the opportunity. And so in some, perverse way, the lack of any implication of union members in the Epstein files is less of a positive notch on the union's ledger and more an indication of the lack of power that unions have. Because, if Epstein had been around 50 years earlier, you could imagine John L. Lewis fraternizing with him. And there's just nobody with that level of power today in the labor movement that Epstein would have even been interested in kind of hanging around with. And if you read much about John L. Lewis, you'd know how much he enjoyed hanging out with the rich, even as he did have, he was a very powerful figure and did a lot of good for working people. But, in his private social life, he just loved, doing rich and ritzy things. And, so it's difficult to say if the labor movement were more powerful, would there have been somebody implicated in the Epstein files? We'll never know, obviously. But nevertheless, there is now a point of contact between the labor movement and the Epstein files, and that is with a big pension fund that has been implicated in the Epstein files. It's Apollo Services, Apollo Global Management. And so AFT President Randy Weingarten, American Federation of Teachers, and the American Association of University Professors, President Todd Wolfson, wrote to the Securities and Exchange Commission to demand an investigation into apparent inaccuracies contained in official regulatory filings submitted by Apollo Global Management detailing its partner's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And so they talk about how the files have revealed new details about multiple meetings over several years between Epstein and Apollo CEO Mark Rowan and his Apollo co-founder, former CEO Leon Black, including discussions over private tax matters for the founder's family offices. The files also appear to suggest that Black's secretary asked a third Apollo co-founder, Joshua Harris, to funnel $2.4 million to Epstein in June of 2014. But and I'm reading from the AFT's press release now about this. They say that an official SEC document filed by Apollo in 2021 and a related legal review took pains to minimize Epstein's ties with the firm, conceding only that Black's 2019 claims that he never promoted Epstein's services to other executives, quote, could have been more precise.
Oops.
That is one way to put it. So in their letter, Weingarten and Wolfson write that the freshly released files show those statements to be, quote, at the very least misleading, and that Black and other Apollo partners would likely have known they were misleading. As the Epstein files make clear, Apollo partners Rowan and Harris appear to have consulted with Epstein on numerous personal and professional matters. The two union leaders say that they're troubled by Apollo's seeming inability to be forthcoming about the extent to which Epstein was a personal, social, and professional associate of the firm and its partners. We don't know exactly what motivates that lack of candor, but it should be investigated. And they talk about how when these allegations were first raised, a lot of investors aired concerns about that and the material financial risk that they faced by continuing to invest in the publicly listed private equity company. The 1.8 million member AFT and its affiliate AAUP believe that the risk has now increased after additional contacts with the deceased child sex offender were unveiled in the latest tranche of documents. They detail their exposure to Apollo. They say that they've got $27.5 billion in a combined capital commitment to the firm. Around 700 AFT members also work at Apollo subsidiary LifePoint Health's healthcare facilities. And that does not even include university endowments in Apollo, which are significant. They say also that 420,000 AFT and AAUP members are potentially affected by Rowan's recent Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education, which conditions federal research funding on institutions signing a loyalty oath to the Trump administration. So they've got a list of all these contacts between the Mark Rowan, Leon Black, and Apollo and Epstein. And it's a lot. It's like a dozen or more. And so they've got the full letter linked on their website. You can check it out if you would like. But that's an interesting connection point there. And look forward to seeing. Hopefully, we'll see the SEC investigate this, and potentially, the AFT may need to divest from this firm and put their pension dollars elsewhere.
Well, that's what I was wondering is to what extent there's ability to do that. I think that's something our labor movement has to take a long look at is these pension funds and how our money is being invested and who it's being invested with. I think that's something we can all be looking a little more closely into. Mm-hmm. We reported on a story a couple of months ago now where members of UE Local 150 were able to get the state of North Carolina to divest from Israeli war bonds. And so it's possible in some cases to really make an influence there. And I think we all need to be looking at how our retirement accounts are funding the opposition in some cases. That's a really big concern.
Yeah. Yeah, not only, getting North Carolina to divest, but, North Carolina is increasingly a purple state, and so people might think that it was a Democratic official that did that. But just to make sure that we give you the full facts so you see how much power these workers were able to flex, they got the Republican state treasurer to divest most of the state's pension funds from Israel. Not all, to be fair, but most. And it was like 90% or something. It was really, really cool. All right, so I think this is going to be the last story that we get to today, and it's just going to be another quick hit. The Teamsters, I think we talked about this last week. The Teamsters sued UPS for breach of the national contract. I think we mentioned it in Last Week in Southern Labor. Or no, we didn't have Last Week in Southern Labor on the radio last week, but we did have it in the newsletter. But we didn't talk about it, so now we'll talk about it. So they filed an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction against UPS, demanding that the company shut down its plan to roll out a second illegal buyout scam targeting UPS Teamster drivers. The package giant told the union it aims to announce the driver choice program this week. And so, reading from their press release, in court filings, the Teamsters detailed at least 6 violations of its national master agreement with UPS, by UPS in the rollout of the buyout program, including direct dealing of new contracts with workers, elimination of union jobs when UPS contractually agreed to establish more position, and erosion of rights and privileges of union shop stewards, among other charges. Since late January, the Teamsters issued more than 57 requests for information and documents to UPS related to its plans for a revised driver buyout, but UPS CEO Carol Tomé and other corporate executives ignored the union's requests and appear to have developed the DSP behind closed doors in direct violation of the UPS Teamsters agreement. The national contract was overwhelmingly ratified in 2023 to protect hundreds of thousands of full and part-time workers. Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien said, "For the second time in 6 months, UPS has proven it doesn't care about the law, has no respect for its contract with the Teamsters, and is determined to try to screw our members out of their hard-earned money. If Carol Tomé has buyer's remorse for the historic, legally binding contract she signed with rank-and-file Teamsters, that's her problem. Our union will not allow UPS to inflate its earnings reports on the backs of Teamsters families. We've given too much to grow and sustain this company, and we will not be sold short. UPS must dismantle its illegal buyout program and resolve its contract violations in the courts, or the Teamsters will see this greedy corporation on the streets." If implemented, the company's driver choice program would give drivers a one-time lump sum payment in exchange for Teamsters legally committing to never work for UPS again, to waive their rights to union representation, and to sacrifice a career's worth of strong union wages, employer-paid health care, and guaranteed retirement benefits. The Teamsters note that the scope of this buyout program is much broader than the payoff presented to workers late last summer when UPS marketed payouts to more tenured drivers nearing retirement. The earlier program, which UPS called the Driver Voluntary Separation Program, was widely rejected by Teamsters nationwide, many of whom took to social media to shred and set fire to the insulting financial package offered by UPS to leave the companies. The DCP, as noted in the union's lawsuit, would be offered to all drivers at UPS, regardless of length of service, and do irreparable damage to Teamsters and its right to representation. The letter of separation that workers would be forced to sign by management to complete enrollment in the program would be irrevocable, further damaging the union or any individual worker's ability to grieve or arbitrate the terms of the separation. And so yeah, they made a motion to enjoin the company from doing that, but it looks like they did not succeed because Joe Allen on Facebook linked to to the program, which has now apparently been made public and drivers can sign up for. Like this was just literally 20 minutes ago, and so it does not seem that that the courts were willing to enjoin UPS from doing this. And so Joe Allen posted this on Facebook. It's the driver choice program, and it's an 8-page document telling the reader that they are invited to apply for UPS's driver choice program, and instructing them to review this guide carefully to understand what it means for you. Very, unfortunate set of circumstances here, because it seems to me on its face that it's obvious that UPS is violating the law here. Reuters reported on it and noted that UPS launched a prior buyout program last year that local Teamsters unions also opposed. It provided $1,800 in severance pay per year of service with a $10,000 minimum to eligible drivers. Only 3,000 opt in, prompting UPS to sweeten its offer the second time. The Teamsters attorney said that if UPS proceeds with rolling out buyout offers to 105,000 eligible employees, he estimates that tens of thousands could potentially be seduced to apply for this, hoping to get the $150,000 jackpot. So I don't know what that means exactly, if $150,000 is the standard or if that's only what some people would be getting. But UPS counsel, Reuters says that UPS counsel James Nelson countered that the union was wrong that the contract was so broad as to bar it from offering buyouts to its unionized drivers, and said that the alternative would be forcing UPS to conduct layoffs instead, which the contract clearly allows. He said that under federal labor law, Casper being the district court judge, Casper lacks the power to issue an injunction in the labor dispute. Casper, the district judge, did not immediately rule, but said she expected to issue a decision in short order. Apparently not short enough order, because UPS has already issued the program. It's kind of crazy. 844-899-TVLR is the phone number, 844-899-8857, if you would like to call in or leave us a voicemail, particularly if you're a Teamster and have thoughts about this. Jose says in the chat, Jose being a UPS Teamster, you would know that if you're a longtime listener of the show, says, do you all know that UPS is closing 22 facilities yet? No mention of that from Sean O'Brien. We have a no strike clause in our contract. And UPS, so I talked about that. He said UPS rolled out that DCP yesterday. So just talked about that. Seems bad. Not good. But I think that's or maybe, I don't know, do we want to talk about the economy and the union numbers, or maybe we can wait for next week?
We've got a lot to dig in there between the numbers of union members and then all the economic news. A little bit of a meaty segment.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be it for us today, folks. Appreciate everybody tuning in. 844-899-TVLR is the phone number. You can leave us a voicemail at any time. TVLR.fm/contact if you'd like to leave us a written note. TVLR.fm/donate to make a contribution to the program. TVLR.fm/store to buy our merch, which is really cool. And TVLR.fm to subscribe to our newsletters, you can get Boss Watch and Last Week in Southern Labor in your inbox every single week. And I think that's it. Adam, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
My last thing was someone mentioned this in the chat. So for those of you who are listening as a podcast or whatever, I'll mention it. Hamilton Nolan had a great piece in these times back in September. It's called "Pensions Can Be Labor's Weapon." And he did some analysis there on pensions and some of the subjects we were just talking about in terms of how our money's being used in pensions and what maybe labor could do differently. So I wanted to lift that up. A good recommendation in the chat. Appreciate that. And otherwise, go to labornotes.org/events. Check out some of those trainings. Spread the word. And really appreciate everyone tuning in today. Solidarity forever, y'all.
See you next week.